a shot. There it is. It is Bedney. Touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
Looking to throw downfield, and it's intercepted. Underthrown, and Kobe Savage has the pick.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Johnston in motion. Play fake. There it is. The tight end, Wiley.
Wow. Good job, Jim. Timmy B. Oh.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another third down. Plumlee in trouble. Gets away. Now he's going to run it across the 30, down to the 25. Still on his feet. Down to the 10. Almost to the 5-yard line. That's what John Rice Plumlee can do for you at quarterback.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Williams wants to fade. Stokes in the end zone for a touchdown, Oklahoma.
365 Sports is turbocharged by Unite Private Networks. Find out more at uniteprivatenetworks.com.
39-yarder blocked. Picked up. The Cowboys, Corey Black. Hit by the turf monster, but can't be stopped. Another special teams touchdown for the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Tuesday afternoon as we hit just past the midway point of the month of July, and SEC Media Days going on. Mountain West about to have theirs, and of course the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and so many more. And David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak will take you up until 6. Tyrell Kirkham, who's the Big 12 Chief Marketing Officer, who's the one that is a lot of these ideas that Brett Yormark gets credit for, and deservedly so. Tyrell Kirkham is the one that handles a lot of the marketing. He was at Rucker Park, so was Jerome Tang and Scott Drew, among others. We will hear from him. And one of the great questions I hope we could ask him, not sure it's great, about how many times has Brett Yormark given you an idea when you kind of stared back at him with a blank face, or vice versa. So we'll have that with Tyrell Kirkham at some point in the 3 o'clock hour. Let's start with this, though. Last night or yesterday, the Mountain West Conference had their meeting and trying to figure out what they're going to do with San Diego State. You know the story. San Diego State wrote a letter, they thought just kind of teasing that they might leave. The Mountain West Conference commissioner said, okay, goodbye. We accept the departure, and then back and forth a couple of more ways. I'm sure legally that could be kind of fun in the end. But they did meet last night. Mark Ziegler, who we've had on, I saw this from some national reporters too, that nothing has really come down. And I sent Mark a note, and he said he has not heard anything, even from San Diego State sources that he has within the university, and he says that's probably because the Mountain West Conference is trying to put together something legally about whatever the penalty will be as far as the departure, the letters, and what will be next with the Aztecs.
I get that everybody wants money and all this, but if they said they were leaving and then they didn't leave and you didn't actually lose them for a year, what are you penalizing them for? Just being rash and
because
bringing
the
negative.
bylaws say.
Yeah. I know there'll be a fine, and that's what it is. I think that if they drag this out and get caught in the weeds anymore, they're going to kind of look silly because, what's changed for them in reality other than a really impatient and hastily sent letter.
Well,
Not
I think
much.
if you don't enforce your rules, and
you got to enforce them. But yeah,
right. So if San Diego State's sitting there going, "Hey, we're going to sit here and toy around with your bylaws so that we get what we want in the end," what's to stop every other school in the conference from doing that eventually?
Yeah, good point.
I mean, like that's where I think they're coming from, is they got to hold the line somewhere, or else everybody's just going to be like, oh, no, just kidding, take backs. We didn't really send that meaning what we thought we were saying what we were meaning from the first time. So I think that's what you got to do if you're the Mountain West. But, yeah, I mean, as far as this chapter goes, I don't know what to believe, and I don't think any of the information we're really reading out there is all that reliable either on this, because there's not really much that it's been said publicly. So, trust who you feel like you can trust on this, but I'll be lying if I say I've got any clue what's going on behind closed doors right now. I would imagine that they, are cordial and are trying to find out the best solution for both parties, but what that means, I don't know, and I'm just fascinated and looking forward to this Pac-12 Media Day on Friday, just simply to hear what Kliavkoff has to say about just sort of where the state of things are, because that directly affects San Diego State and could give us a better indication of where all of that sits and whether or not they're going to be officially going back to the Mountain West or going independent or, eventually going to the Pac-12. I don't know if we'll get those answers concrete on Friday, as far as the Aztecs go or SMU possibly joining, but I do feel like we'd have to at least get somewhat of a hint, right? I mean, you got to at least drop a hint at media days to satisfy just your people. Don't care about, the media out there that wants to know, but I think just for your own fan base's sakes, you got to give them a little something to nibble on Friday after this long wait. So very curious to hear, what kind of indications there may be as far as where this all is, but I'm shocked that there's not at least some sort of a leak somewhere that Mark Ziegler got a hold of that would give you some type of an idea of, what's going on. So that's very interesting that it's been kept quiet.
Well, and that's why he thinks that, and I asked him, I said, have you not heard anything from those you can count on at San Diego State, or are they right now just kind of puckered up? And that's not being negative or sarcastic, kind of puckered up because it's so sensitive with what might be going on. Now, today at Rucker Park in Harlem, this is part of the Big 12 and the promotions and a lot of the newness of what they bring to the table, what Brett Yormark and his staff have been bringing to the table. There's a picture of part of the blacktop. Obviously, the Big 12 banner, the basketballs, the T-shirts, Big 12 in the park. And then also Scott Drew said that had a great time, but he was worried. He told us this yesterday on the show, worried about the weather. There was a lot of basketball, but they had to shut it down a little bit early. And there's I guess a tweet from Scott Drew from Rucker Park. Again, Tyrell Kirkham will join us at some point here, we hope in the 3 o'clock hour, to discuss that particular promotion. Yep, in New York City, where basketball's pretty damn big.
Yeah, and look, you never know what's going to happen, and getting kids excited about coming to your school one day and making a fan. And the thing about New York City is it's one of the best basketball places you can ever go for talent. It's huge. Everybody loves basketball there. And the bigger time basketball, college-wise, is not really in New York City. So you've got kids who, are going to have to go somewhere else to, make it on the big stage. It might as well be you, right? I mean, I know St. John's is there, and that's a big deal. But within the city, they're not racking up NCAA titles right now. Most of the best players are leaving and going somewhere else. If you're the Big 12, might as well make it you. Make a kid a fan early on so that when one day you make him an offer, he goes, oh, well, I think I might go there. I liked that coach when I met him when I was 13 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to see that they had the representation out there that they did, and Mr. New York City, Marquise Noel, was out there representing K-State in the Big 12, and cool little event from all indications, not like a major thing to unpack or anything like that, just a cool camp for kids in New York, and yeah, maybe one of them's the next Marquise Noel, and they end up at K-State as a result of, a meeting today with Jerome Tang or something like that, or like I saw somebody point out in regards to Scott Drew, how he hosted Jared Butler at a youth camp or whatever, and there's a picture of a chubby Jared Butler at like 11 years old, with Scott Drew. And fast forward a few years, and he ends up signing with Baylor and ends up helping them win a national championship and ends up getting drafted in the NBA. And now he's kind of trying to figure his way into a more permanent spot as far as the league goes. But that all started with a camp when he was kid, and that turned into a national title for Baylor. So, I think that there's probably an example for every school out there. That's one that just comes to mind right away. But that's what you're hoping happens. You hope that you planted some seeds and that they pay off, and, you just better the game and better young kids as well that, are just out there, maybe playing video games or whatever, and for one afternoon they got to go learn from some really great basketball minds. So there's no harm in that at all, and I think that's a great deal.
All right, so there is that. By the way, I want to say hi and shout out to Michael Burgess. I was at a business this week. I was walking out the door. He kind of reached over and said, "Hey, are you Smokey?" And I said, "Yes." And sometimes you don't know exactly what might be said. He goes, "I listen to you guys and watch you guys every day on 365 Sports and the business here in Waco." And then he said, "I've been listening to you on the radio for a long time." And so I always have to we've been doing this now for 3+ years, but I still kind of you do know I'm not on the radio anymore. Technically, we're not. And he said, "No, I switched over immediately and started watching you guys on Sikkim, what was then Sikkim365.com online."
So, my good friend Matt Isetti, who just moved to Austin and worked for Learfield with Texas, he was on Channel 10 as the sports director for a long time. And for years, we would be out after he was off television, and people would come and be like, "Hey, I watched you on the sports last night." He'd be like, "No, that was Dan." And then afterwards, Dan, some people would come. And then literally a couple years ago, somebody came and said to it, and it was like, "That's a girl now, right? That's on Channel 10." You can not say that, but people are like, "Hey, I watched you on the sports last night." And
yeah, people do that forever. 20 years after maybe you perhaps have been on television. It's just such an easy thing for people to remember, a face of somebody, whoever is on the television. All right, rivalries. Somebody put this up. This is Gambling Gauchos. Put this up in his Twitter feed. The names of some of the rivalries of the Big 12. Off to the right or left, the names of the schools. Just a couple of these are obviously tongue-in-cheek, but the Sunflower Showdown, K-State, Kansas. The Revivalry with the two of the Christian schools in Baylor and TCU. The Dust Bowl with Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. The Space Race with UCF and Houston. I like that one.
That might be my favorite one, is the Space Race right there. And they've been playing for a couple years. They should have called it that anyway, but I like that a lot.
The Riot Bowl with West Virginia and Iowa State. Help me with this one.
That one I don't know.
All right. Tommy Tubber Bowl with Cincinnati and Tech. And then Brigham Young and Baylor, the Altercation. And then the battle for John Denver with Texas Tech and also West Virginia.
I think all of these should be adopted. I'm going to have him explain the Riot Bowl one to me. But
so if you're a fan of West Virginia and Iowa State, maybe there's something there. I don't know. Maybe something from the 30s. I have no idea. But there we are with that.
Since Tommy Tuberville left both these schools in the lurch, then I think that the loser should get the trophy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. So, again, Gambling Gauchos, very well done. And I'm sure if you have a game between the schools in the Big 12, yes, obviously Texas OU have had theirs forever. And if you have one that perhaps was not mentioned there, send it to us in the chat room if you'd like, the names of the schools and what you would call whatever the rivalry could be. Now, this is the hypothetical next Big 12 expansion team odds from bookies.com. Here are the odds, and then you got to look at one of the notes. It says the odds reflect that more than one team is likely to join at the same time. But these are the odds as of now from bookies.com. And Colorado at the top of the list. I don't think that's a surprise. Whether any of this happens, I don't know. UConn at 2, we've heard their name. I was stunned to see Utah 3 because I don't see them in any way wanting to leave the Pac-12 based on unless there's nothing left, and that's not going to happen. But they are 3. Arizona slightly behind Utah. Then Louisville, which is interesting because they're in that grant of rights until God knows when. Until it gets cold again in this country.
Well, if Louisville is the next to join, right, at any point, say all those, they get down to the odds of Louisville, that means the Big 12 doesn't expand for a very long time.
Okay. Arizona State, great article on Kenny Dillingham in theathletic.com, by the way, and what he's doing with the Sun Devils. Memphis jumps back in the fray. And then San Diego State, we know what their situation is. We opened the show with that. That's kind of in limbo right now. And then the field at 1,400, the odds are just 6.7% that might happen. The odds of the field are slightly ahead of San Diego State and the Big 12. This is kind of just a fun thing, but thanks to bookies.com, they sent me the email on the expansion odds, if in fact it happens and two teams join the Big 12 conference.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Colorado is up there, but I got to take this call right now.
Yeah, okay, all right.
I think it's interesting there's no Gonzaga on that list whatsoever. So I don't know. I'd have them as a higher bet than I would any Pac-12 school at this point. Maybe that's off a little bit, but just interesting to not see them on there whatsoever.
Tyrell Kirkham, he is the Chief Marketing Officer of the Big 12 Conference. He joins us on 365 Sports, Paul Catalina, David, and also Craig Smoak. Tyrell, thanks a lot. Rucker Park, I know this was some of these new ideas that the Big 12 administration and office is coming up with. I know there might have been some rain issues as well, but now that you've had this event, how did it go? Was it better than you could have expected?
First and foremost, thank you for having me on. I am over the moon at the outcome of today's event. We got a little bit of rain, but we got through about 80% of the students and impacted over 200 local youth of the Harlem area. And you talk about the new ideas that we've been able to generate. It's beautiful to see them pay off in a meaningful way. When you look at these kids being instructed by 11 Big 12 coaches, including the likes of Scott Drew, Jerome Tang, Boris Boykins, and a host of others, those smiles on their faces are priceless. And that's what it's all about. We want to continue to be the best basketball conference on court, but are equally as excited when we can do some feel-good stuff in the community.
And for you, just as, getting the word out about, kids in Harlem may not know about Kansas State or Iowa State as much as they do some of their local things. So you're probably building some pretty enthusiastic young fans of the conference too, aren't you?
Yeah, we surveyed, I'd say about half of them knew the Big 12. They all know us now. The fact that we're able to create an aspirational play. We had Marquise Noel, Naquan Tomlin from K-State. As you know, they went on that epic run last year, and being able to connect the dots between them being raised in Harlem and coming to K-State and putting on for their city and for the city of Manhattan, Kansas as well. That is aspiration. They can come back and tell those stories to the youth and say, you may not go to school nearby, but you can still have an impact and come back and give back to your community in a meaningful way.
Tyrell, all these coaches have their various camps and things that they're a part of, but I'd imagine to be outside in New York City at Rucker Park, just got to be a bit of a different feel. What's kind of the early returns you got from folks like Scott Drew on their experience today?
It was Coach Drew in particular. He left smiling, just how rewarding it's been. And, he was on our coaches blitz a couple weeks last year to kick off the college basketball season. Him coming back for this moment. You can just see the excitement on their faces. And I think for us, that's the most rewarding part of this entire process. At some point, we were talking about 12 and under today, but some of these same kids could certainly be part of their recruiting cycle in future years. To start with the feel good and then ultimately end up with other opportunities as people continue to familiarize New York City being synonymous with the Big 12, despite us not having a team here. That's what us building our brand and telling the Big 12 story is all about.
Tyrell, how many times since Brett Yormark arrived, and obviously you joined the staff and a part of the administration, have you guys had brainstorming sessions, and not just the two of you, where both of you stared at the other one with a blank face, or has it always almost been, man, that damn sure makes sense, let's do it?
We throw a lot against the wall, and for me, I'm very fortunate. I had the pleasure of working with Commissioner Yormark during his time as CEO of the Brooklyn Nets. I spent 6 awesome years with him, and he is the sole reason why I made the leap to the collegiate space, because I believe in him. I believe in his creative vision. I believe in his empowerment and giving his staff the autonomy to bring creative ideas to the table. And do all of them manifest? By no means. But, we have healthy dialogue and figure out what's most suitable and authentic to the Big 12 brand. And then once we get the buy-in, and, our ADs are involved in that process, presidents, student athletes, like we try to get full perspective. And when we feel like we're going to go in, then we go all the way in. We don't want to, misstep. We believe in, creating as holistic and impactful activations as we possibly can.
Do you think you'll see some copycats coming in after you guys as, plumbing New York City as a resource for marketing that maybe they've left behind because they are like far away like the Big 12 is, but there are, especially basketball players, there are so many.
Yeah, I think for us, our sole focus, you heard it during media day, it's always about the Big 12 and how we compare ourselves against ourselves rather than think about what somebody else might be doing in real time or what they might do after we do it. We certainly think we're innovative and take credit and appreciate the sort of energy that goes into our thoughts. But we also know it's a competitive landscape. If there's a creative opportunity to enhance a conference or an institution, then we encourage them to do it too. I think competition just brings the best out of everyone. And the pro experience that I've had, that was the best thing that taught me, working in the NBA, the NFL, MLB for, 16, 17, some odd years. I was working for the Mets and Nets and Rams, and my peers were being equally as competitive. But for me, it was about putting our best foot forward and continuing to enhance opportunities for the particular institution or team that I was working for at the moment.
You got your degree from the State University in New York. So to be there today, how much also personally did it mean to you to see that event go as well as it did? The smell of New York City and just being back home. I've been on the road, living in L.A., Michigan, and now Dallas. It was a homecoming on a multitude of reasons. I actually just had a 3-month-old, so to come back to New York and introduce him to my family for the first time while being at Rucker Park and connecting with the place that will always be home is certainly probably the most rewarding piece outside of not to get sad or anything because it's actually a joyous occasion, but a lot of those kids, seeing them grow up and how they were looking at Jerome Tang or any of the coaches that were there, both boys and girls today, it's aspirational. So as now with a child at home, it just pulls at my heartstrings knowing that the impact that these coaches can truly make on a kid for 5 minutes of their time or an instruction during a dribbling drill, it has much greater meaning, which, that's all we could ask for. I saw the video of Coach Tang and part of the K-State staff and also Noel, as you mentioned, coming back and just that love among those two and much more. Overall, Rucker Park has an amazing history and tradition. So how did that come about? Did you make that contact with them? Did they say, heck yes, let's make this happen? Or was that kind of over time?
So oddly enough, during the time that Brett and I were in Brooklyn, we developed a relationship with Eric Adams, who's now the mayor of New York City. But at the time, he was the Brooklyn borough president. So a lot of the things that we need to get across the finish line with the Nets, he was an integral part of bringing them to life. So the first time this idea was sort of brought to life, and we said, well, if we're going to do it in New York, we need the city support. And we reached out, found out that he had an initiative involving youth and sports and outdoors in the summertime to just give kids things to do, which for us, again, it always is rooted in authenticity. So to have his buy-in and working with his team and staff in the New York City Parks Department, it was a no-brainer. And hence the reason why, it came together so seamlessly, knowing that we had some of those built-in connections.
Do you feel like you said this, that you guys don't worry about what others are saying, but it does seem like some of the other conferences are paying attention to the Big 12. Brett's not. That doesn't even get on his radar, does it?
No, like I said, we're solely focused on the Big 12. Our competition is ourselves. And I think when we brainstorm for the benefit of the conference and our success, whether it's tapping into new audiences, whether it's giving us a recruiting advantage for our institutions, we are solely focused on, our goals and objectives, and then we implement the strategy that helps us achieve those goals. And, we didn't have a marketing department prior to my arrival, and, the board and everyone's been very generous to make sure we build up the headcount so that we have the resources internally to really take things to new heights. And I think that's been an added benefit for the success of the conference as of late, and that starts and ends with Brett's leadership and his approach.
Tyrell, last thing is that I know there's been a lot of promotions announced. There's the stuff There's the events going to go on in Mexico City, which we talked to Brett about last week at Arlington. Are there already things or promotions or calendars of events that have not even been released yet or promoted that you guys already have kind of somewhat locked in?
Yes. I mean, one of the priceless messages last week, and I hope everyone heard it loud and clear. We're always going to be happy, but never satisfied, and take pride in one-upping ourselves and coming up, not just with, ideas are ideas, but when ideas have meaning and purpose, it makes the work more rewarding. And that's where, I would say our roadmap is we're a year or 2 years out right now with big ideas. We like to keep the steady drumbeat. And we hope that our Big 12 existing fan base loves to hear it, as well as the new members, the new fans that we're trying to attract through some of the initiatives that we're bringing to life.
Tyrell, we know you're busy. I know you had a great time. Glad the Big 12 had a great time. Most importantly, the young boys and girls who were there who enjoyed that as well. Thank you so much for your time.
Well, listen, one final thing before I go, because, as a New Yorker, it was only right that I'm sitting in traffic right now. Approaching the airport. So this is the perfect ending to what was a great day.
You got the full experience, Tyrell.
Absolutely. Yeah. Nobody who's ever been there understands what you're talking about. Or lived there.
Roll down the window and curse at somebody so we can really get the full thing.
I can have a full conversation with the person to the right of me right now. This is beautiful bumper to bumper New York traffic.
We have to tell this story. We were covering the NFL draft the year RG3 went number 2 in the draft behind Andrew Luck. And we were going to a comedy club, and we got into a cab, and I promise you, nothing they do in NASCAR when they're bumping and grinding compares to that 15-minute trip that we were inside of a cab in New York City. Nothing.
No, that's the priceless experience. I've got a multitude of those stories that I could tell for days.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, Tyrell.
Right.
Congratulations on what you're doing. Tyrell Kirkham, he's the chief marketing officer for the Big 12 Conference. And again, that quote that he put up about never being satisfied. And he goes, I hope everyone heard that when they were at Big 12 Media Days when Brett Yormark was on stage and anytime he was interviewed as well on our Radio Row.
You know what cabbies in New York don't have is Uber ratings. So they can do whatever they want, as opposed to an Uber driver who, if is a psycho, you can give him a 1-star rating or no stars and move on. But cabbies in New York have they fear nothing. They fear nothing.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. They
What's
fear.
there to fear?
I wonder how many of them could have actually been Jeff Gordon or been a successful NASCAR driver.
I don't know. I wonder that about all these people driving Dodge Challengers and Hellcats all over the roads. I wonder why they didn't just trade those in for actual NASCARs half the time, because it seems like there's like a clear correlation there between need for speed. Maybe it's just like not wanting to do it in circles, I guess. I don't know, but it sure feels like there are people attempting to that you see quite often now that would be better served. Like, hey, maybe if you just took that and actually put it like a professional setting, you might be onto something there rather than on I-35 every once in a while. But, yeah, who knows the reasons for most of that.
When we come back, there was discussion today. How long has Texas and the Big 12 been in existence? 96, right?
Yeah.
The Big 12 never could quite comprehend or get their hands around the horns down, right? There was always a discussion. It was very inconsistent, and it kind of reared its head when Mac Brown kind of brought it up, and I think others did too. It wasn't always Texas that was whining. It was a lot of people who were, but they discussed it today, and the head of officials of the SEC made more sense in about 2 or 3 minutes than anybody did in the history of the Big 12 about horns down. We'll get to that and more, and this is 365 Sports. Thursday morning, I get the temporary crown taken off and the permanent crown put in it. Of course, Stonewood Dental. My dentist is Dr. Steve Childress. I think they're going to work on a cavity as well. My bottom left-hand kind of cavity that he said he wants to kind of look at. We'll see. But the bottom line is, again, the constant change in my dental work and also the focus on it Other than the natural, you brush your teeth, that's fine. But he's really kind of taught me about how I have to play catch up on my dental work, because I used to just basically every time that doesn't feel right, something's wrong, I would just not want to go to the dentist. I was worried about, okay, they're going to stick a needle in the roof of my mouth, or they're going to stick a needle in my jaw. It was so stupid, because now those needles are coming anyway. That work is coming anyway, not every time, because there's also regular teeth cleaning and just the fact that Dr. Childress wants to look at what's happening with my dental work. He is amazing. He's given me confidence in what I'm doing with that, and I have confidence that he's going to get it done. And what he did when he put the temporary crown in before was incredible. I trust him with all of what I do with my dental work, and so should you if you're looking for a dentist, a new one or just one because you've waited too long. Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress and his staff are amazing in Robinson, Texas. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings. So come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer. And this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models. Your choice with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the demons and scat packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The horns down was discussed today by the official, the lead official, head official of the officials of the SEC. I said official quite a bit there. But we're going to get to something else that is a little bit different. Today at 5:10, after Craig's off the radar, Ross Dellinger, who's now a part of Yahoo Sports, was at SI for quite some time, just put out on his Twitter feed that as far as the Pac-12 and what they have coming up at the end of the week, which is their media days that begin, whatever you were expecting, if the Pac-12 will not announce a new TV deal this week, sources telling Yahoo Sports, likely extending into August, the league's year-long pursuit of a rights package. The conference holds its annual football media day Friday in Vegas. No announcement is expected. Now, I know a lot of people are going to pile on because that's what a lot of people have done, and a lot of it's just as much the misinformation or the teasing by some administrators within the Pac-12. But I can't imagine that there's going to be questions. You know that, and it'll be interesting how George Kliavkoff responds to them.
Yeah, I don't know how, it's going to be tough for him to be able to have to walk out there because he's been able to not have to have media availabilities and all this time while they've been negotiating the deal. Well, he can't avoid it on Friday. He's going to have to address it somehow. It's going to be difficult, and he's going to have to talk around it. But the can get kicked down the road again. And even if they do get a deal worked out, the question remains, how hopeful are they that the media landscape is going to change so much in the next 5 years that the next one will be better and improve for them?
Well, August is, by the way, in just over a couple of weeks. So that's not like, it's 2.5 months from now. But it is obviously yet another, it appears, based on what Ross is saying, he'll join us at 5:10, another delay on any kind of media deal announcement.
Yeah, or depending on who you ask, was it a delay? Because was there ever meant to be an announcement at media days? And I don't know what everybody would say to that, but I can promise you that if you would have told any single person, no matter how pro or anti-Pac-12 they are, that a year removed from last year's media days, they would still not have a media deal to present the following year, everybody would have said that's a failure. I don't care. If they say otherwise, I think they're lying. I think they are, because I don't see how you could have sat there a year ago from this time and said, all right, they're in line, there's this going on, that going on. I mean, you can talk all you want to about the unforeseen circumstances and, networks changing and all of that, but I mean, to be back all the way around I saw an interview with John Wilner. He's the one that I read probably the most often.
Yeah, from the San Jose Mercury News. Yeah, Pac-12 hotline.
Yeah, and there was an interview with him on YouTube from last year's media day, and you could play it now, and it would be exactly as relevant as it was back then. You could, and I don't know, I'd have to watch the full 10 minutes to see every single question, but I think you could play a good half chunk of that interview and just date it differently, and nobody would even know. I mean, other than maybe a comment or two about a deadline or something like that, because clearly now you fast forward a year and that whole, the deal's not coming up anytime soon. Well, now it's it's another year shed off that to where you actually need a 2024 deal. We're about to enter 2023. So, some of that language would be different. But for the most part, the messaging, I think he would have been shocked to say, hey, right now the way you're talking, a year from now, they still won't have anything at this very same event. I don't think he or anybody else, no matter how positive they are and what it eventually ends up happening or negative they are, could have sat there and said at the time, oh, yeah, no, that'd be totally cool. So I think that's crazy. but not surprising in any way, because this has basically been the story this entire time, was kick the can, kick the can, kick the can. And I'm not saying they haven't had legitimate reasons to do that. We've been very open-minded on their end. We haven't tried to pull the whole like tribalism thing, at every turn we get, and death to the Pac-12 and all of that. But you got to admit, like, it's ridiculous. Like, if the Big 12 was still in this position and they had kicked the can down,
we would be sweating bullets
25 times now, because, dude, that's not far off. Like, it might actually be 25 times at this point, not even joking. Then if you add up all the president's statements and all that type of stuff, I think we'd be sitting here going, gulp. There's some big concerns in Big 12 country. Now, I'm not saying that for the Pac, but I just am amazed that we are still watching this thing unfold, and that we've arrived at media days and they're still not going to have anything to present. That's crazy to me, because you would think there'd at least be something to chew on. Maybe behind the scenes they're giving the 15th update on like the last hurdle that they have to clear because the satellites were charged too much and now they had to redo those and whatever. Now what's the big thing now? It's the CW's not in the Seattle market officially, so they have to wait for a CW. Like, at some point, like, how many things pop up where you're like, it was Christmas last year and they were on vacation. That was an actual delay in the negotiations. Now it's like there's not a CW affiliate, so I don't know what to believe. I know there is a lot of BS being flung, in so many ways, just for clicks and views. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. But I think in general, like, not having a deal done by media days, even some staunch Pac-12 supporters would have to go like, okay, that's a little wonky. Like, we got to have something better than that.
I know that John writes the Pac-12 hotline. He has a podcast. He's been writing for the San Jose Mercury News and covering the Pac-12 forever. But I have noticed, and it may be a good time to get him on after Pac-12 media days or even during, but I have noticed that his tone has changed to, hey, something needs to occur. Yeah, he's had the quotes from Kleofkoff, among others, but yeah, I think it turned, I don't know if it's the last couple of months or last 2 or 3 months or whatever, but you could almost sense that his impatience is there as much as anybody else.
Okay, and this is according to Stuart Mandel, who has taken a strong stance that the Pac will be just fine.
Yes, he has.
And had a very...
In fact, the negative about the Big 12. Yeah, a year ago, like they may not be left.
There's some tweets that people saved from him talking about the Big 12. Yeah, some receipts about the Big 12 would be lucky to this and that and da-da-da-da-da-da. And I've seen those get pulled up, and he just glosses over and probably the best move. But he's a Bay Area guy, so yes, he's very much entrenched there.
And both of them have been on this show and will be in the future. Yeah. It's just that, again, sometimes things you say don't prove to be smart, or it looks silly because it doesn't work out.
Yeah,
and I'm talking about with Stuart, what he said about the Big 12.
Yeah.
Paul?
There will be no Pac-12 TV deal to announce at Friday's media day. It's at least in part because we've seen folks come to the table that were not at the table 6 months ago, a conference source told The Athletic. Now, if that's true, that's great for the Pac-12, and that could mean CW, ION, all these other things that people were actually talking about 6 months ago. But the Pac-12 didn't want to maybe hear about. Or maybe they weren't at the actual table, or however that works. But, but that's also what has also followed all these things is we're not going to have a TV deal, but there's a good reason for it. A little bit of positive spin on it, which at this point, I don't think that the conference needs to be doing, because they're just setting their fans up for disappointment if it does go awry. I think that you just need to be boringly matter of fact.
But what if it's true? What if it's true? And I don't see why they would lie about it. Maybe kicking some of the things down the road, kicking the can, or maybe kind of push it a different. What if it actually is true? Why would you not want to say that?
I don't. Here's the thing. It's true today, but then those people could leave the table, and then what you're having to explain to your fans is, well, you told us there were more people at the table. You told us this, you told us that, and then the TV deal isn't great.
He has not really spoken about anything really with realignment in 7 months.
Yeah, so...
Kleofkoff.
No, and that's why I'm saying the conference needs to just be it's boring, it's matter of fact, but that's what they need to do, because they need to temper expectations, because they're trying to get fans excited about something right now that doesn't even exist. And so they need to maybe stop throwing out like, there's good news on this, and just say it's not done yet.
Yeah, it seems like every time there is like a positive spin on what otherwise would be taken as a negative, it comes from like the same three places every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Every single time. And I like what our buddy Kendall from the website said. He said, I would not publish an anonymous source for a piece like that. I know Mandel has an actual one, but it's been a year. They should go on the record. And this is not even me as a Big 12 guy, so to speak. And it's not like I'm, pom-poms like the SEC folks or anything like that even. It's just we're in the Big 12 part of the map, and we cover one of the teams on a more regular basis. But I'm not even coming at it from a negative angle. I just think, if I was a Pac-12 fan, I'd be like, George, answer some damn questions and give us some clarity on what's going on here, man. Like, rather than just say nothing, report comes out, deny report in a roundabout anonymous way, move on along until something else, and then just I would just want something firm to grasp onto. Maybe Pac-12 fans are different and they don't, and they're all just resting assured that it'll be done in the end, and maybe it will be, but not having something by media day is just kind of crazy to me, like I said a moment ago. I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around that. I mean, I get it, but I feel like we've heard the whole, there's more dance partners than you thought there would be, and that's the whole holdup. And then, it was a complicated deal because Apple's never really done streaming and done linear together. Like, there's all these little things that are like...
Yeah, buts.
but it's Christmas. Yeah, but it's a unique deal. Yeah, but it's just kind of... it's been a long time this thing's been going on, man.
If you, who are waiting as a fan of college football, a fan of the Pac-12 or a program, if you're frustrated, imagine how those in the middle of it are. And some of it might have been when some presidents or ADs have gone on record and said a couple of things and maybe teased it. And maybe they thought that what they were teasing was legitimate. Maybe they were told to say that. This is from Kleofkoff in December. The last time he spoke publicly about the Pac-12's media negotiations, this is in John Wilner's last story in the San Jose Mercury News. 225 days from December 7th to July 21st without uttering a public peep on the topic. There's no need for a rush, he said during the College Athletics Forum in Vegas. We are the last Power 5 conference with our rights available for the next 8 years. Don't really know what that's supposed to mean, that, okay, we're the only ones left so we can take our time because nobody else is trying to do that. And that's been 225 days. And maybe it's good that he hasn't said anything. Maybe it's good, but others who are a part of the conference have actually, of course, we've heard quotes, and also we have seen some of what they've said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's definitely some ways the Pac-12 as a whole could have gone back and maybe done some things differently. I also know that we're not owed anything, that, this is not something, a negotiation that's on our time as college football fans or media. But I still maintain that if you had told anybody involved, even Stuart Mandel or John Wilner or whoever, that they would be another year down the road media day-wise and would still be talking about the exact same subject that had not changed at all, other than there just being potentially less options and potentially more options, I guess, if like the CW is, more of a player than initially believed. But other than that, I think everybody would have had their jaw drop. No matter, even if you were like, well, this takes time and this a full year, that's kind of crazy. So, I guess just remain in patience, all you can really do. I mean, nobody's going to put a gun to anybody's head and make them announce something, but just simply, I think updating would probably be the wise move, and I'm sure we'll hear something like that from Kleofkoff. I would hope it's not just something vague like what the presidents have said, or like, oh yeah, just trust us, it's coming in any moment now. And so I would hope that you've got something a little bit better to present to your fans, because you're not just talking to you're talking to your actual Pac-12 fans on Friday. Like, those are the folks that are going to be tuning in. So I'm very curious. I was already curious to hear what that message was going to be. I'm very curious now. And I guess it just all depends on where you look, on where this thing actually is. I still maintain that they're going to get a TV deal. I still believe that it'll be reasonable enough that not much changes. I know others believe differently, but I still feel that way, and this doesn't give me any further pause, but it's just wild that we're still not going to hear anything by another media day.
Ross Dellinger again joins us today. He's the one that wrote the article for Yahoo He'll join us at 5:10.
I actually, and I've said this before. This YouTube video that we've done out on it, I think there are 3 scenarios, the least likely of which, in like the less than 1% chance, is total collapse and chaos of the Pac-12.
Yeah,
I think that whatever happens at the end of this, there will be a Pac-12, although clearly not what they wanted it to be when they woke up in the morning. Even if everybody stays together.
So that's one scenario.
That would have been the LA school still in the conference. Would have been the ideal scenario.
Okay. The other one is that the Pac-12 sticks together for the most part, and they lose a couple teams because even though the media deal may not be that different, they just look out ahead and say, this isn't trending in the right direction. We're going to be back here in a couple years. Let's just go now and end it so we don't sign this deal. We'll sign another deal with another league that we feel confident with. So that would be a couple teams. And I think the most likely one to happen is that, like Craig said, a deal happens and everybody stays status quo for a little while, and then we play this game again when the rights come up again.
All right, what if, in fact, what are the odds, and this is just being not devil's advocate, but I love to throw different options on the table. So one is they're fine. They figure it out without 2 teams, UCLA and USC, moving forward. 2 is that they lose a couple of more teams because they don't like the trending. 3 is that they're going to have the third one you mentioned is they stay together, but again, they're just kicking the can down the road another 3, 5, or 7 years.
Well, they add teams.
Yeah. Is there anything possible? And I'm not saying this because I've seen this floated out there. Is there anything possible that might actually be a newness or unique part of what they do that nobody else has ever done, and part of it may be because they have no other choice, that actually might be smart? Shoot me, whatever.
I mean, I've taken this stance before. I've said this multiple times. I've said, how funny would it be if in the end they end up with a better deal? Have I not? So
yes,
like,
you have.
I've thrown that out there to play devil's advocate a few times. And until ink's dried, that's always a possibility because we don't know. We're not in those rooms. We're not the head of Apple or the head of CW or whatever. We don't know the types of money figures that are being thrown around. I am far more pessimistic on that being the case now than I was when I first started broaching that topic, probably, starting about a year ago. But until I see otherwise, Paul, that's always a possibility. Yeah. I'm not going to say never. At the same time, though, yeah, I'm starting to like. Here's the thing with me. Like, you didn't have to, for any of our sakes, have a deal announced. Like, this is more for your schools and those who are potentially like looking around at all, which we know is at least somewhat of the case. No matter how you want to define that, and stretch the words to pretend like that's not the case. There's at least some exploring that has gone on that's undeniable. And so you do want to like steady that as best you can. Although you do feel like maybe you got a couple teams you can pivot to, right? Or you're not even worried about losing. You still got a couple teams that you're going to end up adding in the long run. If that's the case, and you're going to be totally fine, like I'm sure some Pac-12 fan somewhere is claiming right now, and very well may be true. CW is going to be great. Apple streaming, it's going to be a perfect combination. They're not going to lose anybody. They're going to add San Diego State. They're going to add SMU, and it all ends up like the best possible scenario. I still want to hear something on Friday from George Kliavkoff, easing my nerves a little bit if I'm a Pac-12 fan. Not just saying like soon, but letting me know like, hey, here's some concrete stuff to like know. Like, not necessarily, you don't even have to tell me it's Apple, but tell me the bare bones of what you can tell me that is factual, that it can at least let me know that we're on the trajectory, not some open-ended, vague, no end date, like any scenarios possible type of a statement, because that's what we've basically gotten to this point. And for me to feel good about the situation, I would like to hear some substance to some of the words that he has to say. Well, what about you guys?
Yeah, no, I mean, you think you do? What about the 10 teams that are left in the conference? Or what about San Diego State? What about perhaps others, even SMU, as they sit back and wait on what might help or be a part of their future, or yet another disappointment? So there's the story. Ross Dellinger, now with Yahoo Sports, helped us. Again, he'll be on at 5:10 to kind of even give us more on that. Now, I teased the Horns Down segment, which is something that the Big 12 really has never, and I tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, that they've never seemed to be able to grasp. The Horns Down, is it taunting? I know many Texas fans who don't give a damn. They don't. They almost take it as if it's like they're proud of it. Right?
Almost all of them don't.
Yeah. Yes.
I've never met one
There's
that does.
some that might get a little bit, overly sensitive, but it's gotten to the point where it really would tie up, I think, officials on what they should do. So today at the SEC Media Days, Brett McMurphy, there's a lot of people who had this, but the SEC's coordinator of officials penalizing the horns for the horns down signal in 24. Unsportsmanlike conduct needs to fit one of three categories. Is it taunting an opponent? Is it making a travesty of the game? Is it otherwise compromising our ability to manage the game? The difference between a player giving a signal directly in the face of an opponent as opposed to doing it with teammates celebrating after a touchdown or on the sideline, to net all that out, every single occurrence is not an act of unsportsmanlike conduct. Said the same applies. The SEC has been doing this with the gator chomp and land shark signals.
Yes, which is why
it's not that hard.
The Big 12 was so confused about it because they got kind of a thing of any time somebody throws it, it's 15, and that's why it was. That's a great explanation of it. Because
if somebody scored and they're alone in the end zone and they put the horns down, or whatever team that we're playing, anything in the face of an opponent is immediately taunting, whatever the signal, hand signal or not. Yeah.
I thought this was the dumbest thing that the Big 12 management-wise. I think this is the dumbest thing the Big 12 dealt with over the last few years. It was like the biggest non-controversy controversy. It was the stupidest thing every time it got brought up, and it was made dumber by the fact that nobody in the Big 12 had the you-know-whats to sit there and actually explain the rule all that clearly. And maybe they did, and maybe just the messaging was so poor previously that it just didn't get into the ears the way that it should have arrived. Because I know on Saturdays it was awfully confusing when you see that flag thrown and you're like, why? Why was that thrown? Will Greer threw the horns down. Did he throw it in the face of one of the Texas DBs? No. He just threw it in a moment of a big game, and here's the flag flying. I'm just using that as a small example. It was confusing. It felt like it was very much a Texas-only rule. You know what I mean? And because I guess not everybody else, even though several others do have hand signals, I guess doing those upside down just doesn't register. But I thought this was a silly controversy. I'm glad the SEC's dealing with it right out of the gates and just making it very black and white and matter of fact. Hey, if you go throw a horns down in the face of a Texas player after you pick off the quarterback or you run a touchdown into the end zone, then yeah, like anything else, that's taunting. That's very clearly taunting. That's very clearly a penalty. But if you're just doing it after a big play, like a pick off of Quinn Ewers, and you get knocked out of bounds and you look to the crowd and you throw the horns down, yeah, that should never be a penalty. So I think it's very clear what's taunting and what's not. And when guys are just using a symbol to celebrate, and yeah, maybe taunt in a very minor way, and then there's going over the top and getting in dudes' faces and
throwing down the hand.
Yeah, you don't want that. That's totally understandable. And if the Big 12 just been consistent with that all along, then I don't think it would have been that big of a deal. But I'm glad the SEC addressed it, and now it's a non-issue. Now it won't be an issue, and it won't be brought up unless there's a reason to bring it up, which the rules clearly state there shouldn't be.
Shadow Bearded, you must not have been listening, or you may need to clean out your ears. It's not a Texas thing. It was a Big 12 thing. Learn your history, you casuals. You're not listening. We set it up as if it was not a Texas thing, and I said from the beginning that every Texas fan pretty much that I know was never offended by it. Hated the fact that there was even a rule. And Craig just explained that, as did Paul. So
just directly blame the Big 12 for the confusion, but go on. Go off.
But thanks for your time.
It was only a Texas thing because Mac Brown and DeLoss Dodds pushed it as hard as they did. It wasn't a Texas, not everybody who goes to a place agrees with everything their coach and AD does. Clearly, that happens all the time. And it was one of the biggest probably collective eye rolls in Austin was like, would you guys shut up about this? Yeah. It is not a big deal. Stop it.
Well, say for one dude.
Apparently because he's offended or overly sensitive about the fact we never said exactly what you alluded to in the chat room. So I don't understand why you went there. But we're not done. Graham Coffey covers Georgia. They were on the clock today at the SEC Media Days. The two-time defending national champions trying to do something nobody has ever done in college football history, and that's win 3 in a row, and there's been some great dynasties that have been on the cusp of that, but no one has done it. We'll check in with him. Also, Ross Dellinger at 5:10, Craig's off the radar at 4:45, and Paul Catalina at his top 5 in just over 2 hours. This is 365 Sports. City of Woodway, if you're traveling or planning to come in if you're a Baylor fan that lives around the country, you probably have been back here before, but let's say you haven't, and you're looking for a place to stay for a night or two to come watch Baylor football. 8 home games, remember, and or you're one of the 8 teams coming in to play in Waco, and you're looking for a place to stay. Yes, the city of Waco has more hotels than I've ever seen before, because I used to wonder if they had more than 5. But there are a bunch of them, and Magnolia, the Silos, and much more has a lot to do with that, and the tourism. But there are also, I think it's 7, might be about to be 8 or 9 hotels within the city of Woodway. The city of Woodway, which is on the southern part of Waco, you can find the hotels that you're looking for if you need one by simply going to discoverwoodway.com.
Cars priced right, day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com, and joined by Marketing Director Samantha Duvall. Samantha, thanks for your time. There have been numerous holidays, and now it's just straight up the summertime. Your thoughts about some of the specials and ideas you have?
So we still have our hamburger special going on. We're going to continue it through the end of July. When you bundle our 25-pound ground beef bundle, you can get hamburger for as low as $6 a pound. And the same with our 28-pound Wagyu hamburger patties. You can also get those for as low as $6 a pound. All of those come with free shipping in Texas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. We've got a lot of steaks online. People are buying up our brisket. Time to smoke a brisket. Good time to grill out. If you order and use our code SICK'EM10, you can get 10% off your order of $100 or more. And it's all grown right here in White House. We're a family-owned company. It's all pasture raised. We just enjoy what we get to do.
Family reunion, people going out to the lakes, or people just meeting or going out of town. Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate at TexasBeefHouse.com.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco is a premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been to Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness lately, you're missing out on the improvements, with the members excited about what they see. New flooring, locker rooms have been redone, new painting, and mirrors added to the weight room and group exercise room, with a new squat machine that will test your legs and their stamina. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, treadmills, elliptical machines on a spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and welcome Nathan Roach. 16 tennis courts plus a beautiful stadium court, and longtime youth tennis pro the great Britt Cole, plus adult tennis lessons with Blake and Kenna, who are ready to take your game to another level. And the commitment to pickleball with 8 courts and instructor Jody Cody Thurman. Visit the website, wacotennis.com. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive next to Hawaiian Falls in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Graham Coffey, Dog Central, joins us on 365 Sports SEC Media Days. Today, Georgia was front and center, trying to do something nobody has ever done in the history of the game. And Graham Coffey joins us with Paul Catalina, David, and also Craig Smoak. Graham, thanks for your time. So Kirby was on the clock today. I'm sure there were questions about the offseason with some of what's going on. But bottom line, let's start with this. The three-peat, is that something that can, even for a team so dominant, can eventually be a burden?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it was interesting because I was kind of curious if Kirby would have a different tune than what he's had in the past. You know, in the past, he's talked a lot about not just fighting complacency, but sort of not letting his players get overconfident. And now you've entered a realm where you're trying to do something that, like you said, nobody's ever done. So at a certain point, you need to kind of start reversing that psychology. But his message was a lot about their leadership culture and, you know, great leaders kind of making sacrifices and being willing to sort of, you know, pay different costs. And in that, he talked about how, you know, 1-peat, 2-peat, 3-peat, I don't really care as long as the, you know, the internal results are going right. And sort of the, you know, he wants his guys to do the right things, and the result of that is usually winning games. But in a lot of ways, he kind of sounded like he's not so much invested in the wins or losses as much as he is just making sure his players are preparing the right way.
Well, to that end, there's been a lot of off-field noise surrounding, and this happens to every team that wins as much as they do. There's going to be more attention on them. How does he intend to address that in making sure that those are not the things that create complacency or problems for the team as they try to three-peat?
Yeah, I mean, you know, he has talked to UGA media specifically about the, you know, really the driving, you know, the speeding, obviously the tragedy that happened January 15th where they lost Devin Willick and Chandler LaCroix. And you know, there were questions that were asked to him about why are your guys still getting speeding tickets after everything that has happened in your program this offseason? And in a lot of cases, he kind of deferred to his players and was just like, well, you need to ask them about it. So we did. You know, Cedric Van Pran has started on their last two national championship teams, came back instead of going to the NFL draft. You know, we'll start for a third year at center for Georgia. And we asked him about it, and it was a lot of, you know, hey, like, we're having a lot of conversations internally right now where if one of us messes up, we all look bad. You know, it's not people saying, hey, this guy's a knucklehead. There's people saying, hey, you know, Georgia as a football program is out of control, and we are all part of the Georgia football program, and we don't want that label put on us. So I think, you know, Georgia has always been a player-driven program in terms of how they practice and, you know, sort of everything else. And you know, I think Kirby is taking the proper amount of responsibility and admitting that they have a problem. But I think he's also saying, hey, like, I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to stop this because these kids are at the point in their life where, you know, they get behind the wheels of cars, and sometimes they do drive too fast. And so I think there's some honesty there, but there's going to be people who aren't happy with that answer because you want to see them eradicate that. You want to see these kids, you know, every time they get in a vehicle thinking about the fact that they lost a teammate to a traffic accident, but at the same time, they are kids and they have short memories.
Graham, When it comes to the notes coming out of today, I saw where Smoak Bowie now no longer with the team. I guess Georgia said they mutually agreed to part ways. He had come over from Texas A&M. I know they didn't have a very big transfer class in general, but was that, I guess, what level of a surprise, if any, was that? What kind of an impact, if any, does that have? And on that transfer front, just having less than a handful of guys, I was particularly curious about Tyke Smith and just how he's fit in so far.
Yeah, not a huge surprise, I think, to those of us close to the program to hear that news. There had been some buzz for a couple months that he was not in Athens or not with the football program. Frankly, we didn't know where he went. We still don't know where he went. Had some issues, I think, over the spring in terms of just not maybe being on time for things and not showing up in a way that Georgia wants their guys to. And I think they set a hard line with him. And, I don't think he wanted to do all the things that you got to do to play football for Georgia. So parted ways. But, yeah, with Tyke Smith, he came in from West Virginia after that 2020 COVID season and was a third-team All-American. And everyone was really excited and assumed he would immediately slide into the starting lineup, got hurt in fall camp, and then came back for a game and tore his ACL, and he kind of fell off the map, and it's been a long road back for him. He had a really, really good spring. Javon Bullard, who was, MVP of the Chick-fil-A Bowl, defensive MVP of the national championship, he played that sort of star slot corner role that Tyke also plays, but we expect him to move back to safety this year. So Tyke is sort of the presumed starter in that slot corner role, but we will have to see, how long that lasts. They've got a lot of talented guys in that secondary, but everyone feels like a healthy Tyke Smith is something that we really haven't seen yet since he got to Athens.
They have talent everywhere and loads of it. And, of course, at quarterback, some young talent. That's why they recruited him and signed him. Will they miss what Stetson Bennett brought to the table as far as his swagger or perhaps just that kind of oomph that he brought to the table?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, the replay of their win over Ohio State in the playoff semifinal was on TV last night when I got back to my hotel room here in Nashville, and there was a little stat that popped up basically that that game was only the third time since Stetson became a starter that Georgia trailed in the fourth quarter of a game. So it's like 3 of the games he ever trailed in the fourth quarter of. 2 of them were the win over Alabama in the national title and the win over Ohio State in the playoff semifinal. So, really came up big in the few occasions where Georgia found themselves behind the 8 ball. We asked Cedric Van Pran today sort of what the similarities are with those other guys in the quarterback room, and he was really adamant about not comparing those guys to Stetson in a lot of ways and kind of talking about how they all are unique personalities. But one thing he did say was that Carson Beck and Stetson Bennett have like a similar type of poise to them. The question for Georgia is going to be if they get on the road against Tennessee and that offense, gets a couple quick touchdowns or, Georgia has a bad turnover in their own end and they all of a sudden find themselves down by 14 points. How is Carson Beck going to respond, right? And I don't think we can know it until we see it, but it's going to be hard to match what Stetson Bennett did just in terms of the kind of poise and just swagger that he had. There was a self-belief there that you don't often see in college football.
What differences can people expect between Mike Bobo and now Todd Monken, who's off to Baltimore?
Yeah, everything that we've heard this offseason from Kirby about the offense has been, sort of him pointing to all the ways that things are going to be the same. I'm sure there's going to be some package differences. Darnell Washington is gone. Georgia ran as many 2 tight end sets last year as anybody in the country but Utah. I mean, over half of their snaps were taken out of 12 personnel formations over the last couple of years. So that's a big thing that identity-wise probably changes because they don't have a 6'7", 280-pound mutant of a tight end anymore on the roster. You still have Brock Bowers, but I think you might see Georgia be a little more receiver-heavy this year. There are some kind of questions in that running back room, just maybe not the – there's a lot of very, very good players. There might not be that top-level talent in the running back room like they've had in years past, like a Chubb or a Sony Michel. So you may see them throw the ball more, especially early in games to kind of get ahead. But their offensive line is probably the most sure thing about this team. So I don't expect them to abandon the run in any sense. But, Mike Bobo, the question for him is going to be kind of similar to that question with Carson Beck. Like, if Georgia finds themselves in a bad spot, or if it's 3rd and 4, 5 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and they need a first down to try and put a game away or a score to try and come from behind, is he going to pull the right card out of the deck? And Todd Monken, 9 times out of 10, pulled the right card.
Graham, I think everybody who's followed it closely enough knows that Georgia does not have the most daunting schedule this year. I'm sure you've heard that ad nauseum. Maybe Hugh Freeze and Auburn can just be interesting early on, and then Tennessee there late in the year. But, I mean, for the most part, I think everybody feels pretty good about them being flawless. And heading into the SEC championship game, I'm just curious, who do you picture them facing in that potential game? Because it does seem like there's a bit more of a question on the other side of the conference.
Yeah, I've been asking myself that same question a lot this week because we've got a vote on that tomorrow. I think right now I lean towards LSU. They beat Alabama last year. Yes, they've got to go on the road to Tuscaloosa, but Alabama, they lost Bryce Young, and who they replace him with, assuming it's Tyler Buckner, they're not getting another transfer quarterback between now and the start of the season. So it's going to be one of Buckner, Milroe, and Simpson. And I just don't think the top end talent is really there for them in the passing game. And their offensive line has struggled for a couple of years. I think there's been a kind of an influx of talent to happen on their offensive line that should improve that unit. But there isn't Bryce Young standing back there anymore. So I think that LSU is more of a sure thing when you kind of go down the list of position groups, and particularly the position groups that really matter in the SEC, which is your lines of scrimmage. And then, how are you going to look kind of, on the back end? Like, I think Alabama, as odd as it is to say, has more question marks right now than LSU does.
Graham, thank you. It's been a busy day. Nashville hosting SEC Media Days. I know it's been elsewhere for many years as well across the Southeast. Your thoughts about it, and also your thoughts about next year, the SEC Media Days being in Dallas at the Omni Hotel.
Yeah, Nashville, always a good time. I joked when I got here on Monday morning that feels like the entire city is under construction. I'm looking out my hotel room window right now, and there's like 7 high-rise cranes just in my field of view. So lots of growth going on here. It's cool to be on Broadway and to sort of have that experience. The SEC always does a phenomenal job putting on this event and creating, kind of a fun atmosphere around it. Dallas next year, I think, is really exciting. I personally lived in Dallas at one point, so I'll be excited to kind of get back to that area. And I think it's cool to see the league go out there with the addition of Texas and Oklahoma and sort of representative of a new era in college football.
Thank you very much. Thanks for being a part of it on a busy day. It's Graham Coffey. Dog Central covers Georgia, also at SEC Media Days.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, they can be kind of boring in like the best type of way because they're just so good. Like, what do you ask? Like, what weakness do they have? Are they going to miss Stetson Bennett? Well,
if they don't have 5 offensive tackles,
of course they're going to miss their starting quarterback who led them to a national championship. I think everybody's going to feel that to some extent. But when you're replacing that guy with any number of other super highly talented players, as opposed to what most people have to replace their legendary national championship quarterback with, if they ever even reach that point. You'd much rather have their problems than anybody else's. So, yeah, I mean, they are a team with very few weaknesses. It feels like if there's anyone even sort of on the horizon of developing that you could detect by microscope, it would be this off-the-field, just little chatter, but that's not as dire as part of the story was and as awful as it was. I mean, they've just still kind of gone along, right? And so, barring there being anything else just totally ugly and unforeseen, guys here and there getting a speeding ticket, I mean, that's not going to, derail what Kirby Smart's built up, and they're just an absolute machine. I mean, Alabama was kind of in a class by their own there for a little while, and then Clemson goes, nuh-uh, we can play this game too, to an extent, but Georgia's just like taking it to this whole nother like level across the board, from recruiting it to everything in between. That's just, it's hard to imagine how that thing's going to fall. But we thought the same about Bama. They still haven't fallen. Miami, Nebraska. I mean, it eventually happens, but it might not happen for a really long time the way things are going.
There are certain places, aren't there, Craig and Paul, that there are certain places, they're sleeping giants if they get the right coach.
Yeah. And look, that's been Nebraska's problem. That's been Miami's problem. Florida State, that was their problem. That they fortunately had maybe a shorter window between, non-relevancy and relevancy as some of those other ones. But Michigan didn't have the right coach between Lloyd Carr and Jim Harbaugh at all. Now they do. The good programs are the ones who plan it out a little better and don't have, Michigan has a problem in that, outside of Rich Rodriguez, who's a West Virginia grad, they want a Michigan man to be the head coach. Well, there are only,
what did that do for Nebraska when they got a Nebraska guy?
There are only a few really elite coaches that went to any school ever. So, if you peg you're down to, well, they had to be a really elite coach and they had to have gone to school here, then your pool is slim because it just may not be the right fit at the right time for what you need to do to win at a certain place. In Miami, they're a little bit different in that their athletic department support has ebbed and flowed so much over the years that they got just so far behind in the arms race outside of talent. Like, it wasn't even just about getting that talent anymore. It made it harder to get that talent because you would say, hey, you can come here and play at the coolest place ever in Miami and look at all the things we've done in 5 national titles or 6, whatever they have, tons, and it's the U, and, you can be yourself here, and, you go in and the weight room is
antiquated
worse than the one you have at your high school.
Well, here's the thing.
You're like, okay, well.
It's hard. It's easy to get to the top, although Georgia, it took a long, long time since Herschel Walker. That doesn't mean they weren't knocking on the door. They right now have the perfect fit with Kirby Smart, who understands the SEC, who has the blueprint because of Nick Saban, too, and then he put his own little fingerprints on it.
Georgia is a different kind of example. Georgia had the right – Mark Richt was an excellent coach. It's just there were a couple guys that were just better than him. I mean, and that's why he couldn't beat those guys. And that, Mark Richt, really good coach, really successful. Put a lot of great players in the league. Georgia was regularly playing in the title game. But, there were other coaches that existed at the same time as him in that league, namely Urban Meyer and Nick Saban.
How about Tom Osborne had to play against Barry Switzer?
Yeah. So
forever.
Yeah, you can be the second or third best coach in the league, and then, unfortunately, especially for a guy like Mark Richt, the first best always seemed to be at the school that was knocking them out of the race.
All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour continues. Craig's off the radar in about 20-25 minutes. We'll have Ross Dellinger at the top of the 5 o'clock hour, and then also we'll have the top 5. Mac Rhodes, who's normally with us on Tuesdays, on a couple of weeks break, so expect something to break loose when it comes to college athletics. He's out of pocket. We had him on for a long time last week in Arlington with Commissioner Brett Yormark. John McClain out at least another week on vacation. He'll join us again sometime starting next week. This is 365 Sports. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, new facility, more than twice the size of their old one. Been in business since 1943, allowing them to carry new inventory as well as higher quantities of inventory in a much more organized fashion. Location may have changed, but the values that they've always had that have kept them in business no matter what since 1943 remain the same. Handshakes mean something. Relationships with customers mean something. It's not that somebody comes to your business once. It's if they come back again and again and again. And obviously, people have been doing that. Customers have been doing that. Those in need of pipe, steel, and metal have been doing that at Pioneer Steel and Pipe since 1943. In addition to the standard long lengths and tubing, angles, channels, rods, and flat, they now carry several shorter, more convenient lengths of material already cut, which saves you time for anyone who doesn't need or can't haul the long lengths back to wherever the construction site might be. A 2,500 square foot showroom with over 1,000 new products in stock, welding supplies, hardware, do-it-yourself components for any project, whether you're a weekend warrior and or a personal contractor, a professional contractor. It's Pioneer Steel and Pipe, the Pioneer Boys, on Loop 340 and Highway 6 east of 35 in Waco, pioneerboys.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Super chat. Thank you to Arturo Balderas. If Georgia three-peats, will they be considered the team of the 2020s, even those are the only ones, even though those are the only natties they win? Oh, man, I'm trying to think, okay, let's think about the team of the decade in the 70s. It probably ended up being perhaps USC. I know that that Oklahoma would be in that conversation, possibly Penn State, Alabama, Nebraska, right?
Yeah.
And if I miss Ohio State, the team of the 80s, I would think Miami.
Yeah.
Because one of the other teams in that conversation, Florida State, is who they beat. Just like Oklahoma would trump Nebraska in the 70s because they beat them almost every year.
And that was the thing. Miami is the team of the 80s because when it came down to it, they got to bowl games. They beat Oklahoma in a bowl game. They beat Nebraska in a bowl game. They beat FSU in a bowl game.
I think twice,
they beat the breaks off of Penn State in a bowl game. So they're all like, no matter who was the other,
Florida wanted to cancel the series.
This could be, they did. They played out like they'll play a home and home once a decade, and then be like, "See you guys, we play you."
All right, so there's the 80s, the 90s. Florida State, because of the head-up win against Nebraska, both would probably be 50% if you looked at it. But Florida State won a national championship game against them. Mm-hmm. In the 2000s, Florida would be involved. Multiple national titles in the 2000s.
LSU.
Alabama didn't get their first under Saban until 2009.
Y'all are missing a team that was more consistent than probably anybody, but they only won one title.
Texas.
Oklahoma was
in the 2000s?
The 2000s? They started off 2000 with the national title. They played for it like twice more. Texas also played for it twice in that decade, but Oklahoma played for it there was the win over Florida State, then there was a loss to LSU, there was a loss to USC, and then they played for it, I want to say maybe once or twice more after that, but won a couple Heisman during that. They didn't win multiple, but yeah, you throw Florida in there, you throw Texas in there, I guess. And
USC had their run too.
USC would be in that as well. That mix of the 2000s. I guess we'll keep going through the decades.
2010's no question. Alabama from 2000 to 2009.
Right.
2010, to 2019. And you can't name anybody else. Georgia's 3-0 if they win again this year. And even if they don't, they're two national titles in the 20s, but still a long way to go in the decade. But appreciate the super chat.
Also, to answer the question, I think they would absolutely be this. Yes,
absolutely.
That was the question. And so, not only that, but you would have to place them amongst the greatest runs in college football history simply because no one's ever done it, period. Forget the rest of the decade. No one's won 3 in a row ever. So that's the kind of uncharted territory that you're talking about. Lots of teams have won back-to-back. Lots of teams have won multiple in a decade. Maybe not lots, but several. Same thing. But nobody's won 3 in a row. So, that puts them in a rare air that not even Alabama can lay claim to, no matter their great runs, or Oklahoma in the 50s or the 70s or Nebraska and Miami in the 80s. No one's done that. So, I think that not only team of the decade, but you're talking about one of the all-time great runs. It's just a matter of, it would still be open-ended because then here comes – what about 4 in a row? But the thing about that is it's going to be way harder to win that 4th or 5th or it's going to be harder just period to win one no matter who you are in the expanded playoff. Because you can be Georgia and be loaded to the gills and you'll still be the favorite over just about everybody. But when you're suddenly playing a couple extra games, and that's not against Boise State, or for example, that's now going to be like you played Ohio State and you beat them. That's great. Now you're going to play USC. That's great. Okay, now you play the national title game, and now you're going to play Alabama. That's just... If you win 3 in a row in that format, my God, you're the greatest college football team, I think, of all time.
Someone might have to win 4, right? With 12? Am I right there?
Your opener wouldn't be one of your hardest games. It would be probably your 3rd place team in the Big, or your 2nd place team in the Big 12.
And you'd be playing at home, perhaps.
Which is not a gimme, but compared to the gauntlet of like second round on, where you're playing teams that have won a playoff game or 2 or 3 at that point, you're talking about maybe like less than 2 handfuls of teams that are going to be equipped to do that. Well, just depth-wise, there's going to be very few teams that are going to be able to do that.
Well, and look, the other thing that can happen is you can have, one of the best teams you've ever put together, and then you run up against a team that's hot at the right time. Like that's the other thing that the playoff and the postseason in college football has always kind of eliminated is, you lose. Let's just say you lose 2 games kind of at a random time in the year, but you finish the year, statistically better and beating better teams than anybody in the country, but because you're maybe even just 11-2 winning your conference, well, because of those 2, you're not in the top 4. Well, now you could be playing your best ball at the end of the year and just get that team that you think is so great at the right time because you're at your best and they're not, and that's going to happen a whole lot more often than it did because before it just wasn't a possibility.
What's really hard to understand is that why there wasn't a three-peat, because for the longest time you had 2 different national titles. So you would have thought it would be easier back when there was the AP and then also the UPI and then eventually became the coaches poll. Roger, on the 2000s.
Actually, I think when you throw in the fact that there was just people voting on it, then the three-peat, the standard probably went up in that if you're going to have that third team, you better be as good as the other 2. And if you were slightly down or some of the players weren't there, then you're going to have people across the country that think, well, now.
Kind of like a guy who's won back-to-back NBA MVPs and they get tired of him.
Yeah.
Like Joker.
Yeah.
Roger, USC had a 34-game winning streak in the 2000s, 2 national titles, and then lost in perhaps the greatest national championship of all time. So, yes, I mentioned USC, and I mentioned that. I didn't mention the 34 games, but I did mention that before Texas stopped the three-peat. Paxton asking was Texas the last team that ended a three-peat? And I don't know if Alabama had, technically in the national championship game, I don't know if Alabama was ever trying to win 3 in a row. They won a lot. They'd win 1, they'd win 2, then they would not make it, but they were a part of the conversation.
Sure seems like they would have gotten interrupted somewhere, unless it's just been way more stuttered than I recall. But yeah, to the point about USC, that's actually who my brain first goes to when I think of the 2000s. But I had to throw Oklahoma in there too because they were just so consistent. But yeah, I'd have no problem saying USC as far as the team of the 2000s. Trying to pull up the latest history on when we would have maybe gotten a three-peat.
Like, did Clemson end an Alabama
Alabama and Clemson just traded blows. That's basically what happened. Then Florida State interrupted Alabama in 2013. That would have been the last time that would have been possible, I believe.
But is he asking to Texas? Because Texas specifically ended it for USC.
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. They played USC and beat them specifically. Florida State didn't play Alabama. Florida State played Auburn.
No, that's what I'm saying. In the national championship game, did anyone end the possibility of a three-peat?
So I see what Paul's saying. I have no idea on that. I don't know who would have, with that caveat, I don't know how who would have played 3 times in a row and got beat that third time. But yeah, as far as like a team attempting to win a third one and not making it to the championship game, that would have been Alabama here in 2013-14. It would have been the last opportunity. Is that what 2013? No, it would have been.
Yeah, they won it in 2011.
2012, and then they lost they didn't win in 2013. So that interrupted that, and that was the last time we've had back-to-back until Georgia, I believe. Yeah. And
in 2013, Alabama lost to Oklahoma in the Sugar Bowl 45-31. It is 4:38. There are a couple of other notes. Craig will have off the radar here momentarily, but there's one other television media type. And if you're now joining us, earlier today, Ross Dellinger put up the note that the Pac-12 does not expect to announce anything on their new TV deal when they have their media days coming up in Vegas later on in the week. We'll have Ross on a little after 5 o'clock. We discussed that at length, and a lot of you had your opinion. But also this one, Pat Crakes, who we had on the show just yesterday, responding to this from Joe Flint. Peacock becomes the latest streaming service to raise their prices. Ad-supported plan will increase at $1 a month, while the ad-free tier will go up $2 a month to $11.99 a month. Price increases for cable TV, or in this case, streaming, isn't that like breathing? Groceries go up, right?
Yeah.
Car prices will go up, or that's part of like just the economy. So $1 or $2. I asked Craig and Paul this the other day. I have Amazon Prime and I have whatever music. And I kind of started seeing like I was getting sliced with a razor blade with $2.99 here and $9.99 here and whatever. And then some of them are me ordering something on Amazon Prime. But I kind of almost like lost track of what I was spending, even if it was $2 to $5 or $9 per month. And I need to kind of grab that and get a hold of that just to make sure I'm not just getting scissored to death by those people. But
well,
we'll see.
To your own point, who cares? It's just $1 or $2. I mean,
You know,
$1.
have you ever thought that Craig just doesn't?
No. But like you just got done saying, well, who cares? Just $1 or $2, and then you went on to say, man, it's starting to look at my bills a little bit, and they're starting to add up.
It's not $1 or $2 with me though. I'm talking $9.99 and $12.99, and I've never really thought about it until all of a sudden I just did. But you're right. You make a great point.
But what I'm saying is that it's just $1 or $2 once or twice, and then when it's very clearly trying to make up for all the millions you've lost in these failed movie experiments and your failed whole platform that you've been trying to, get up to snuff, and then that's why we're all paying an extra $1 or $2, and then in 6 months I bet you'd be paying another $1 or $2, and then 6 months from then will be, and next thing you know, Hulu's like $25 or something. That's what we got to pay attention to, because they're not raising prices just because it's the natural thing to do. That's part of it. That's part of just, you're right, just American, business. But it's very clearly also because they need the money. They need everybody to pay more to help offset some of the losses and speed up the process of recouping some of that loss. So I think that's where you have to look across your bills, for example, it may not seem like $2 here is that big of a deal, but if you got 10 services, $20 a month, I mean, that kind of starts to add up after a while.
Yeah, it does. And it's weird because you see these things, and part of it, like when you go back, if you went and sat all these executives down and you went down a list of the dumb things that they've done, even there was a streaming service that started called Quibi. And Quibi, their whole point, Smokey, was they were going to do shows that were going to be 5 minutes long. Right? So they were going to do little 5-minute things, and they were going to have 50 episodes of this 5-minute thing for the short attention span people. It failed spectacularly. Okay, so that one lost money, but then there were media companies that bought the content from Quibi that no one watched. So if I went and said, hey, who spent $200 million to buy all this stuff from Quibi that no one watched in the first place, and they have to raise their hand. Who thought it was a good idea to, make a whole bunch of stuff that no one asked for at all? Who let's make a sequel to a movie from 1986. Well, if they didn't make it in 1988, it probably shouldn't have happened. So let's just
unless
move
it was
on.
Rocky 23.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I definitely have cut back on some of my, and you're right, it's $5 a month that I'm saving, and so $60 a month over the year, but I think it's my peace of mind as much as it's anything else. With my wallet, I'm just not burning $60. And you know what? I know some people that could probably use $60 extra. Not everybody's rolling around just flush with cash, especially these days. So pay attention to your bill, because they will sneak up and not always remind you that your prices will be going up, even if it is just a couple of bucks. But that's definitely a sign of just, I think, natural evolving American economy, but also the sign of the economy in the state of streaming right now is there's a lot of money that was spent, that was lost, and they're trying to get some of it back.
Yeah, it seems like everything I did save with my cable bill that I cut back about $75, I all of a sudden might be doing that with all this streaming. Pat Crakes, by the way, his response, it's not a shocking trend that continues to be not at all shocking by not shockingly being consistent, which in turn is not shocking. Prices for all media content across all platforms will go up, continue to go up until the financial losses abate, which may be a while. All right, when we come back, Craig, and Off the Radar with a couple of notes about Northwestern football, and this is 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, they are the people that you can count on. They're the people that I've counted on many times in the past. Had a guy, this about a couple of years ago now at this point. Luckily, it hasn't been more recently than that, because it did feel like I was in Richard Carr a little bit too often there for a little while. But Richard Carr, they are the people that you can count on. And as I mentioned, I've counted on them a couple years ago, had this road rage incident. A guy he felt like he needed to get over no matter what, that my car didn't matter in his efforts to get to wherever he needed to be, and he rammed right into the side of me. Got all taken care of. It was definitely his fault, but when I needed my car taken care of, he was not available to repair the vehicle, nor was he probably going to be interested in doing that. So had to go to the people that you can count on, and I was able to count on them and get great customer service over at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac. I didn't buy my car there originally, but they took care of it as though I did. And when I do need to buy a car again in the future, I know that they will take care of me once again. Or if I want to take it over there right now and get an oil change, they can hook me up as well. So right now, if you are in the market for a new vehicle, they've got the GMC Sierra, which is a hot truck on the lot, reporting a big increase in sales this year because it's a great vehicle, exceptionally nice, well-equipped on the inside, tough and strong where it counts. Before you buy another truck, drive one over at Richard Carr and see for yourself if you want the best truck. Well, then you'll probably find out that you want a GMC. Also, SUV-wise, ranked number 1 overall brand for new vehicle quality by J.D. Powers. You got the Buick lineup of SUVs, luxury SUVs without the luxury price. Right now, save $2,000 on 2023 Buick Enclaves, Encores, or Envisions in stock. Plus, well-qualified buyers get special financing and no payments for 90 days. They've also got a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. And if you're looking to get your car serviced, for example, get your tires worked on or an oil change or something along those lines, their award-winning service department is standing by to keep you on the road. So give them a call, go to the website, or just show up in person, and they will accommodate you accordingly. But whatever it is that you're looking to do, buy new, buy pre-owned, or just take care of the vehicle that you're in, Richard Carr is your one-stop shop for all of those things. So check out the business that's been in business for 24 years in Central Texas, standing by to keep you on the road. You can go again to the website to see their service specials, set an appointment for quick and reliable service. Check out the dealership run by proud Central Texans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB, your bank for life. Member FDIC.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Booze
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
It is not the top 5. It's Craig Smoak and Off the Radar, brought to you by Alliance Bank.
Thank you very much. Off the Radar here Tuesdays and Thursdays at around 4:45. And just a grab bag that I got to be honest, I hate this time of year. Like, we are in the dead zone as far as stories that would normally occupy this spot. There will be a bevy of stories on a daily basis to talk about, in these little 15-minute segments twice a week. But right now, I think that just in general, you're finding enough to fill a show period, much less a little niche segment. So do the best that I can with what's out there, but it is pretty quiet right now for the most part in the world of sports. But there is the Northwestern story that's ongoing, and today we learned via various reports, and Adam Rittenberg of ESPN, the one that I'll highlight here, that Northwestern, in light of the firing of Pat Fitzgerald, also baseball coach Jim Foster, and the various investigations, allegations, and now potential lawsuits as well that are going on surrounding hazing at the school. The university announced it will initiate 2 external reviews into its athletic department in the wake of said investigations into hazing and bullying that led to the ousters of Fitzgerald and Foster. The school's president, Michael Schill, sent a letter to faculty and staff saying that reviews are needed to ensure appropriate accountability for the athletic department. One review will examine how they detect threats to their athletes and implement accountability within the athletic department. The other review will assess the culture of Northwestern athletics and its relationship to the academic mission. And most notably, they will release both of these investigation results. That was not the case with their investigation into the hazing and bullying and the toxic environment and all that was going on, not only with football, but in particular with baseball. So they are getting their ducks in a row to try and, improve where they erred and try to make up where they can, and still a lot to sort through lawsuit-wise. That's not going to end overnight, and who knows how the rest of the fallout just within the athletic department occurs and transfers and things of that nature. So I don't know. Like, on the one hand, just human being point of view, this is great news if you're a Northwestern alum, and especially if you don't care about sports at all. But if you're a sports fan, then I think you're like, uh-oh, what was this going to uncover here to have 2 dueling investigations? But just in general, it's obviously needed, or at least it appears that it's needed. I'm sure there will probably be some that disagree. But either way, they're opening they're going to have a couple of investigations, and in the end, the public will hear about their results.
Adam Rittenberg reporting that now up to 12 ex-players and more expected to join what will be a civil rights suit against Northwestern.
Yeah, and transparency is important here, and I'm sure there's some attorney that will tell you, give as little information as possible, and that's probably true, but the fact of the matter is this. They're getting sued anyway, and a lot of this information is going to get subpoenaed out. So a lot of these things are going to be found out in court anyway. Really, honestly, eventually, all that stuff that you have on record, all the investigation stuff will come out. It's going to, because the attorneys on the other side are going to subpoena until they can get what they need. So most of that's going to come out. I'm sure there are some things you've got to protect, but transparency is much more important for you in the long run, because if you are transparent, the storm lasts shorter. Northwestern is in a storm, no matter what. The ship is going into the storm. There's two routes. There's the route that leaves you in the storm for the duration of the storm, or the one that takes you out of it. And so, sadly, most institutions, not just colleges, most institutions choose we're going to be in the storm the whole time because we think this is the shortcut. No, the only way out is through. No matter what you do, there's just a long route and a short route.
The shortcut is transparency, right?
Yeah, but they think, hey, if we do this, everybody will quiet down. No, transparency is the shortcut, because eventually, if you are transparent, there are no more questions left to ask. The more you obfuscate the information and get in people's way, the more questions start to get asked. It happens over and over and over again. And seemingly no one learns this lesson. But Northwestern hopefully has. There's a ton of smart people there. It's one of the best, most elite institutions in the country, in the world educationally. So maybe they're making a smart decision here and taking the short way out of the storm.
So Northwestern's going to have a couple of dueling investigations, and obviously football, baseball already affected. We'll see what else comes of that. But, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what comes out on the other side of what they look into. Meanwhile, you may have noticed a lot of scuttlebutt around the NFL and the running back position yesterday as word got out that Tony Pollard of the Dallas Cowboys, Josh Jacobs of the Raiders, and Saquon Barkley of the Giants were not able to come to terms on new multi-year deals ahead of the franchise tag deadline, and as a result, those guys are not getting new deals, and they'll play under the franchise tag, which means that all of them will be making slightly over $10 million. Boo-hoo, I know. But still, for the sport and the amount of money flowing through, that is a paltry sum compared to some of their counterparts. So that is the franchise tag. I'm sure most of us would sign up to play under that. But when you're a running back who's got a short shelf life and you know that there's not really a whole lot of positive attention surrounding the position at the moment, you're going to see that and probably get a little bit concerned. And I don't know if you guys saw, but there's like half the league's running backs took to Twitter or Instagram or whatever yesterday to talk about, standing in solidarity with their running back brothers and demanding, I'm being a little over the top here, but demanding change, and this isn't right.
Really mad at Matt Miller from ESPN.
Yeah.
Why? Because he tweeted, I've said it before, draft a running back, play the running back, franchise the running back one time, draft a running back, play the running back.
Well, I bet he's been right more than that. I mean, I bet he's more often right than not. It's almost like running back collusion. And I'm not saying that I don't think there's anything to do about it. You got your contract. You stay healthy enough. If you're fortunate, not many running backs get to play at a high level for more than 3 to 5 years. There aren't many Emmitt Smiths or Walter Paytons or even Eric Dickersons who he didn't play. Jim Brown stopped in 9 years and walked away at the highest level of his game. Earl Campbell probably had a 3 to 5 year window, and then we saw what happened with him, even see it to this day. But
I get it from both sides in that if you're Saquon Barkley's kind of a different thing. He's got a lot of injuries. But if you're Jamie Jacobs, nothing's happened to you in your career that would suggest at this point that you're going to run out. You're trying to negotiate about your deal and your worth to the Raiders, and they're telling you that, well, no, statistics show that all these other guys happened to that. And he's like, well, that's not me.
Well, then sign a 1 year deal, walk away, go see what value you have on the open market.
And then if you're on the NFL teams, you're talking about trying to make a decision that's salary cap and all that you have to, save some money somehow and make sure you don't make bad contract decisions. And running back is just the position that it's the easiest now for you to go, well, no, we can't give a long-term deal to that because you see what happens in the back end. The Cowboys, I think, very much suffered for having given Zeke the long-term deal when they did. They really did. And that's not Jamie Jacobs' fault, but he's just another one. Sean Alexander, 2,000 yards, got a big contract, hit the wall. You know, so there's so many guys.
What's the guy that played at the speech?
Chris Johnson.
Yep.
So you had a lot of the running backs sounding off on Monday. Jonathan Taylor, if you're good enough, they'll find you. If you work hard enough, you'll succeed. Had like very motivational type quotes, and I mean that's all fine and dandy. That sounds like something that's kind of like a safety blanket. Is when things go wrong, like just remind yourself of these phrases that everything's going to be okay in the end. But there was an absolute amount of panic coming out of the running backs of the NFL yesterday. Derrick Henry took to Twitter, said, at this point, just take the running back position out of the game then. The ones that want to work and the ones that want to be great and work as hard as they can to give their all to an organization just seem like it don't even matter. I'm with every running back that's fighting to get what they deserve. It almost sounds like it's like a civil rights thing or, some type of maybe not civil rights, so to speak, but like a human rights almost type of thing. Like but by simply playing running back, you're owed this certain level of return, and that's just not the case. I mean, it's just, you were born in the wrong era, buddy. I mean, if you want to make more money right now, you'd be better off telling Derrick Henry to go play linebacker, right? I mean, or try to play tight end or something along those lines as opposed to playing running back. It's just not a position that's got very high value at the moment, and that's just for the foreseeable future probably going to be the case. I mean, until things, generally twist back in a different direction offensively, which there's no reason to indicate that it will. I do think the whole Matt Miller method of draft a guy, play him out his rookie contract, see where he is, reboot, do it all over again, that is probably going to be the way that most teams go. And the Bijan Robinsons of the world are going to be few and far between most likely. But it's an interesting development, and it was particularly interesting because yesterday you had, Saquon Barkley and Najee Harris and Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry and like all these guys all over Twitter, Christian McCaffrey, letting their voices be heard on the disrespect that they feel the running back position is getting these days. So I don't know what you do to change that, because there's no forcing owners to pay you more, especially if they don't feel that that's a position that deserves more.
If they think it's a good business decision, some of them will get burned by that, but they have to make what they think is financially right to do. And if somebody walks away and he ends up having 5 or 7 or 9 more years and ends up being among the greatest ever, that's the risk you take. And you might have your own running backs, and the difference might be a couple hundred yards a year compared to what the stud who keeps on playing might get. Just not the same star power name.
So Major League Baseball All-Star Game last week, another record low is one way that it was phrased, but still remains the most popular All-Star Game. So you can say what you will about baseball's All-Star Game, whether you're a fan of it or not. Amongst the Big Four, it is still the most popular, but it did average a record low 3.9 rating, which equated to a little over 7 million viewers, and not much more even when you included all of the various platforms. It was down 7% from lows that were set a year ago. So now that is 5 of the past 7 years there's been a new low as far as All-Star Game ratings. The highest they hit was around 7.5 plus million at one point during that game. But yeah, still by far the most watched event. Second place, the Pro Bowl games, which we know that's been like a different thing almost every year now, it feels like. You had that across various networks. The Home Run Derby is actually the third most watched All-Star event. So baseball's strong in the All-Star Game market, but their numbers are dipping as well. And then you got the NBA in the third place spot as far as their festivities go, which had a little under 4.6 million this past winter. So All-Star Game, still the healthiest of its kind, but not pulling in big numbers. And you know what? Just like anything else when it comes to TV ratings, because we'll talk about this during college football season on occasion, but, however you want to read those, like I throw them out there not for like great debate necessarily, or like this is the death of cable, or I just find it interesting to see what's popular and what a lot of people are watching, and I'm sure you can attribute some of that drop to streaming. I'm sure there's a good deal of that, but in general, just a trend across TV that continues on.
I think the baseball All-Star Game is the best one in that you can't like half-ass your way through the game and it not be 8 hours long.
Right. Yeah.
So you actually have to pitch and hit and field. You can't do what the NBA All-Star Game does. It's like, okay, for 48 minutes, we're just going to kind of jog up and down the court.
We're going to play no defense for 44 minutes and then all of a sudden get serious at the end.
Yeah. You can't, like with the NFL, by the time the Pro Bowl runs around, if you're a fan and you voted for the Pro Bowl, half of the team is not going to be there because they're going to opt out because of this injury and that injury. So nobody you voted for is there. And then you're going to watch it with, oh my God, this guy's going to get hurt and he's not going to be there for next year. And so there's all this worry that goes with the Pro Bowl. And then they have the weird games thing, which is better now, but even still, at least baseball, the All-Star game is a game.
Yeah.
And so it stays there. But again, it's probably lost its luster just like baseball has.
If you're up to bat and you're in a game,
nationally,
whether up 6-1 or down 2-1 or whatever, you're not going to just go swing 3 times lazily at 3 pitches. You're going to want to get a hit. I mean, it's a big deal. In the way that it's set up and the way the game is played, it's hard to just kind of mail it in.
Yeah, this reminds me, it's very loosely affiliated, but I remember there was this idea in high school to raise money for a trip, and the idea was to play a 100-inning game. And we basically did it on a Saturday, and it was inter-squad, and it sounds cool, and they raised money, and everybody got to go to Florida. It was a terrible idea because, dude, that's a 100-inning game. By inning 20, which is 4 hours in, and you've got another 80. I was swinging at pitches to strike out intentionally. That's a scenario where you would do that. But other than that, there's not really a whole lot of ways.
Cocoa Beach, is that what you talking about, the one that trip to Florida?
Yeah, that was to set up the trip to Florida.
Okay.
But we played a 100-inning game. But that is a scenario where I did absolutely go up there and intentionally try to ground out to first base as quickly as possible to just keep this thing rolling on along. But
walk over to the catcher and be like, "Hey, listen, I'm gonna bunt this ball, and then I'm gonna fall down."
Yeah, I mean,
it was get up,
finding creative ways to
make it look good.
Yeah, to fly through 100 innings. That was not the most genius idea in hindsight. And that took pretty much the entire day. All right, final things here. Couple of TV notes. The Netflix series Quarterback, which has featured Patrick Mahomes and Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota. Maybe you've watched it already. I know that I have not yet caught an episode in full, but I've seen parts of one. I know several people have already started getting right into it and have really enjoyed it, and I've enjoyed the parts that I've seen, but it's already been a success because it's been picked up for a second year. Netflix officially announcing that they've renewed a Quarterback for a second season. I haven't seen anything on as far as the cast and whether guys would come back, at least the current cast with particularly Mahomes. But it has been an enjoyable watch. Have you watched it, Paul? I mean, you watched pretty much everything.
No, I have not seen it yet. I'll get to it. I've heard I've heard Vic's reviews on it, and that some people liked it, some people thought it was kind of a slog to get through and a little bit long. Okay. So
I've seen hey, how could a lot of respect for Kirk Cousins, just how he is as a family man. A lot of people just, I guess, eyes open to Patrick Mahomes. Got a bit of a dirty mouth. He's throwing little cuss words out, and that was something I just had somebody said that they were surprised by. And it's been picked up for a second season, so not sure on the cast or crew and how that's going to go. Meanwhile, HBO NFL Films announcing Hard Knocks with the Jets will be coming on August the 8th. It took a long time to announce a team that was going to take part in this, and after all is said and done, it will be the New York Jets with Aaron Rodgers now in tow, Tuesday, August the 8th on HBO, so get ready for that. That ought to be interesting, and they took forever to name a team.
With restricted access, though. The Jets are shutting that down a little bit. I think that's to make Aaron happy because he's not
going to play?
He's
not going to play along?
He was apoplectic about it.
Because I think he'd be great.
Somebody asked him at the golf tournament, said, yeah, they're going to be there. Of course, nobody wants to do it. Nobody likes Hard Knocks. It's a big pain. So, I mean, I'm sure he'll play along. He likes the attention more than he likes the attention, but likes to pretend like he doesn't like the attention.
Right.
That's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The Kardashian, why are the paparazzi here? Because you told them you'd be here. That's why they're here. I mean, that's the kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, he'll play along to a certain degree, but I do think that he did say, look, I'll agree to this, but you're not going everywhere you normally go.
Yeah, he'd be great if they let him in.
So there you have it, New York Jets on Hard Knocks, and there's a few things off the radar.
All right, Craig, a lot more than I thought. A bunch, in fact. And coming up next, Ross Dellinger, who's the one that mentioned first the Pac-12 would not announce their media deal coming up when their Pac-12 media days begin in Vegas. What else has he learned since that time? And this is 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. We just had a couple of them delivered earlier today to our studio, thanks to what they do. Bob Mock, the owner, owns 5 locations in the Waco area. Used to be none, and it wasn't that long ago, and now there are 5 in Belmead, China Spring, Hewitt, Robinson, and also in Woodway. So I called him on the way to the studio. 2 large pizzas, thin crust, pepperoni on one, and then sausage and all the meat on another one. And it was here in like less than 30 minutes. Tipped the driver. He was great. And then they, of course, went on to delivering other pizzas for everyone else. 5 locations. Marco's Pizza. Go to marcos.com for all the specials. You can order online. You can pick it up yourself at one of their 5 locations, or they can deliver it to you. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. How crazy is this? 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport totals values of $4,000 plus 1.9% financing for 72 months. How crazy is that? Or the 2023 Jeep Compass, get 10% below MSRP. That's right, these deals are hot just like our summer days in Texas. Remember, first responders get another $500 in savings. So come find the Jeep that's right for you and save big at Alan Samuels in Waco. Make this the summer sales event at Alan Samuels during the hot days of summer. And this month in July, get legendary 2023 Dodge Chargers or Challengers, SXT, GT, or RT models. Your choice with total values up to $2,000. Alan Samuels in Waco is the place for you to shop for your next Dodge. Shop the greatest selection in Central Texas and find the hot rod for you. Come by and visit the showroom at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. See the demons and scat packs they have loaded the sales floor with. They won't last long, as you truly have the last call models of legendary muscle cars only at Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco, Loop 340 east of 84.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears!
Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott & White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon wrap fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world?
by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments, with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Good friend of the show, Ross Dellinger. He is now at Yahoo Sports, and it didn't take him long to have a story from today, SEC Media Days, where he has been. Not that this is the only one. Pac-12 will not announce new TV deal at Media Days in Vegas this week. He joins us on 365 Sports. Ross, thank you for your time. When you heard that, or the source spoke with you about that, did that surprise you there would be nothing at least concrete?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised by anything anymore when it comes to this situation with the Pac-12 TV deal. Nothing really surprises me, but I did kind of expect something this week, maybe a formal announcement at Media Day, or maybe just more concrete, news around a TV deal other than, it's not happening this week, and that's that. It sounds like it's close, maybe closer than it's been in the past, but we've heard deadlines put out there by, on the record by conference presidents, and they have not been met. I don't know what to really believe about this situation, and nothing really surprises me, but the bottom line is there will be more waiting for a Pac-12 TV deal.
Do you feel that the optimism that they kind of float out there is legitimate, or is that, they've been kind of doing that the whole time, and we're still here, and it's not going to be until, at least 2 more weeks from now before we hear anything?
Yeah, it's tough to say. If you were probably in their position, if we were in their position, I could understand the way they're approaching this and wanting to give off as much optimism and positivity as possible, and that's what they've been doing. If it isn't a positive outcome, I would think there'll be a lot of egg on faces on people maybe in that conference in general, namely, right, the conference leadership. But they are all singing kind of the tune of they're together and intact, and they're going to stay that way, and they're going to have a TV deal that's going to be good enough to keep everyone together. I'll be honest, like I said earlier, this situation, it's one of the kind of the most bizarre that I've encountered in college athletics. When you lump in the Big 12 pursuit of some Pac-12 teams and kind of the agendas by this league and that league, and it's been kind of hard to parse through exactly what's happening. So I tried to keep that story today nuts and bolts of, hey, a deal is not going to be announced this week. They believe it's getting close, and in the near future will be announced, and they're preaching positivity. But it's hard. It's hard to kind of to believe anything right now you hear about the situation.
Well, Ross, that angle you're taking and doing that is much appreciated by a lot of people. I think I speak for quite a few folks, because I know it is easy to just run with whatever rumor and blow it up and just do whatever to get attention. That certainly can be done, but you are just sticking to meat and potatoes and the actual facts, and I think everybody or there's at least a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people that do appreciate that. Having said that, if you could be up there on Friday and ask George Kliavkoff one question regarding this entire saga, what question would you ask George Kliavkoff?
Man, I would hesitate to ask him anything about the TV deal because the response you're going to get is a non-answer. You know, if you were to inject truth serum in him and get one question, I would ask what network outlet, media outlet, whatever you want to call them, broadcast outlet is who are you talking to? You know, what are the top couple that you're speaking to and negotiating with? Specifically, who will be, or who do you expect to be your primary broadcasting partner? And that's been a hard question to answer. And I wrote about it a little bit in that story. We know that, you know, ESPN and Fox, NBC and CBS have all done deals recently with Power 5 conferences. They're in the Big 12, right? Signed on with Fox and ESPN. Big 10 did CBS and NBC and Fox and SEC's with ESPN. And then you have the Apple and Amazons that seem to want to get into the game. So you'd like to think those are some of the outlets or networks involved. But if you speak to people on the TV side, they don't really confirm that they're talking deeply with the Pac-12, and so I'd want to know what networks that they've identified as potential primary broadcasting.
Ross, one of the things I think that's also probably hurt them, don't you think? There's been some presidents or ADs for the last several months, it seems like on multiple occasions, mentioned that they have something that we're close to, and it just seems like they're kicking the can down the road.
Yeah, you know, there have been a lot of deadlines placed on this deal, and I should say not by the commissioner, but by a couple of different conference presidents, maybe even some athletic directors. I think the last athletic director I saw actually make a comment was Ray Anderson at Arizona State, who actually said this thing could go. I believe he mentioned July or August. You know, this thing could go that deep. But we've seen a lot of deadlines placed, and it does put pressure on the commissioner and the conference leadership. You know, and yeah, that's probably wasn't wise of them to set deadlines that they cannot reach.
Ross, SEC Media Days going on right now in Nashville. Yesterday, you know, Jimbo Fisher kind of got a lot of the attention because of not really directly answering any questions about Bobby Petrino. What's your read on this overall about what the message he's trying to get across there when asked those questions?
Yeah, it's hard to kind of figure out exactly what's going on there in College Station. You've got some pretty big personalities involved with Jimbo Fisher and Bobby Petrino, two kind of offensive minded guys. You know, Petrino, we all have to remember, it's been a long time since Bobby Petrino was an assistant and took orders. So, and Jimbo Fisher didn't really come out clearly in front of the group of media and say, hey, he's got full control, I'm going to call the plays. It's probably because he doesn't necessarily have full control. You know, I mean, the read into that would be he doesn't have necessarily full control of the offense, and Jimbo Fisher will probably very much be involved.
Ross, where does your mind go when it comes to, I'm sure we'll find out in some of your Yahoo work here, but where does your mind kind of go with the SEC Media Days and points of interest for you in particular?
Well, you know, NIL was obviously a big topic of day one, and we'll be having something come out on Yahoo tomorrow, just from a sit-down with Greg Sankey we had about NIL and the state of NIL and maybe the future right now in college athletics and where we're heading, you know. And so that's always a big topic on my mind. Obviously, tomorrow is Alabama, and Nick Saban will be here, right? And that'll be quite a spectacle. My columnist, Dan Wetzel, will probably be all over the Alabama angle. That's always a spectacle. Here in Florida, I believe, is tomorrow as well. So two pretty big programs will be coming here to downtown Nashville, and should be a fun day.
I listened to the latest conversation you guys had on your podcast about the NIL discussion and Greg Sankey and what he had to say. And you pointed out, the whole crew did, about the fact that the schools are the NCAA, and there's like this weird thing of like they're like eating their own tail. And what do you think's on the other side of this in terms of the schools are the NCAA, yet they're fighting back against the own rules they implemented to break those rules to have an advantage? So what does that ultimately turn into? Another entity that they control the exact same way that they then break those rules? Or like, where does this eventually head, do you think?
Well, this is something that a lot of, like just casual college football fans don't really understand. They all want to, and we all in general want to kind of crush the NCAA and poke fun and poke holes in the NCAA. But the NCAA is a voluntary membership organization made up of the schools. And the rules that the NCAA enforces, because the NCAA does do a few things itself as a organization there in Indianapolis, it enforces rules made by its members, which are the schools. And most NCAA committees are made up of athletic administrators, coaches, and school presidents from the schools. And so right now, with NIL, you've got a real interesting situation popping up, and you've got schools that have created these NCAA bylaws that are encouraging their state lawmakers to create state laws that permit them to violate the same rules that they created in the NCAA, within the NCAA. And it feels like it's sure getting to a breaking point. And we're getting to a point in Congress where the NCAA is trying to seek help for federal NIL bill to supersede these state laws, where the NCAA is going to have to come up with some kind of backup plan of some sort. And I think they're in the middle of that now. You'll read a little bit more about that maybe tomorrow at Yahoo. But it's getting to the breaking point here of the situation.
One thing, Ross, and we got to let you go. I know you're busy. Ross Dellinger now with Yahoo Sports with us on 365 Sports. You released a story about the Pac-12, and others have now followed suit. One of the quotes was that they have new partners coming to the table that weren't there before. Do you believe that?
Well, that's one of the things I've heard as well. I have. Like I said earlier, Smokey, this situation has been so fragile to deal with, and it's been hard to sift through a lot, that I didn't want to include in there what might be termed as kind of speculation, or biased speculation. So I kind of stayed away from quoting that, but I have heard that. I have heard that from Pac-12 officials. It's hard to believe anything right now with this situation. And so I kind of sidestepped mentioning that in my story.
Thanks for making time for us today, man. Congratulations on the opportunity with Yahoo Sports. I knew that wouldn't take long, and glad that you're a part of that. Thanks for your time.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Ross Dellinger, yahoosports.com, with us on 365 Sports. Here's a couple of notes from those who reported today, and Ross was the first on the Pac-12 and not announcing anything at their Pac-12 Media Days on Friday. Doesn't mean that Kliavkoff's going to just completely not mention something, but a Pac-12 source told me the league expects to release details of its media rights deal in the near future, but it will not be announced at the Pac-12 Media Days. More on ESPN.com. Source said waiting led to more bidders in the conversation. The near future, next month, by March, by the NCAA tournament, by the spring meetings, and this is not making fun of them. These are facts of timelines that have been brought up by those who are within the Pac-12 administration, whether we're talking presidents, ADs of the 12 schools or 10 schools with USC and UCLA on their way out.
Yeah, I think there's a tweet out there. Somebody's compiled all the various quotes on when to expect something, and it's like 15 lines deep from a handful of different people, a couple of presidents, various others that have spoken on it. That'll get added to some today, I would imagine. And it's all in their own words. It's not like 365 Sports said that there's a deal coming soon, or ESPN said it's like Kirk Schultz said there's a deal coming soon. Ray Anderson said there's a deal right around the corner. It's like February of 20, it's all on their own timeline that was created. And I guess maybe it would have been better served, or they would have been better served to just not have said anything at all in hindsight. But we're far past that point. So it has added to the fire, to some extent. And if anything, created more of an anticipation, whether that was deserved or not, regardless of whether something was ever close when it started to feel that way or not. Like, that's the way it kind of all bubbled up and came across. And so now you have a situation like today where it's just Groundhog Day all over again, and it does make you roll your eyes. And like Ross, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of just BS to sift through, and a lot of just lying, and a lot of just look at me, like throw something out there. And you know what? Sometimes that might be accurate. Because sometimes the guy who's black and white and works for the paper has an agenda as well, So like it really is hard to know really what is what at any given moment of the story. And I guess you just rely on the people like Ross. Like if Ross says it, I know pretty dang well that it's probably good to run with it. And so we wait. And I feel like I've done this segment 15 times already where I've said this exact same thing, but the beat rolls on, and I would just be really disappointed. I've seen like there's this one Oregon State fan who's like, I've seen him now multiple times responding to tweets of people who are like having fun with it. And it's like, it's not your job, buddy, to defend Kliavkoff's handling or the Pac-12's handling of this. But I would imagine for your sake, rather than being mad at Big 12 fan or ACC fan or SEC fan, whoever is having fun on Twitter, like, I would think you'd just be kind of pissed at your own conference that you root for and the fact that we are at a point where, again, this is still ongoing. So
the finger pointing that a couple of dozen national columnists have it out for the conference is silly. And also the fact that there are thoughts that maybe 3 or 4 national columnists are like pro Pac-12. You surely as hell hope in our profession, which I know has changed, you don't have anything pro. We cover the Big 12. We want the best for them. But, man, we have sat there and wondered where Baylor would end up. When Nebraska, Colorado left, when A&M and Missouri left, and when Texas and Oklahoma story popped, you have that. So you really, it's become a turf war because it's taken so long. And anyone that's reporting something that does it for a living doesn't mean they're trying to, like, railroad a conference. And then again, Twitter, who knows what you might see. But, damn, this is, it's like he said, he's never seen anything like it.
I'll say it again. If you had told anybody involved last year at Pac-12 Media Days that fast forward 1 year, you'll be back here again and nothing will have changed, everybody and their mother would be lying to you if you said that wouldn't have been a massive disappointment. I don't care what side of the fence that you're standing on. I don't even care if there is a fence. I just think that is period. That is true. Point blank. Nobody involved would have said, yeah, we'll be back here a year later and not have anything to reveal to you.
There are people who make lots of money and do really good public relations and give organization strategies that work out really well. There are also those that make a lot of money and are really bad at this, and we saw it here at Baylor. Whoever they were paying to do their PR in 2016 was just essentially robbing them at gunpoint. It was really bad. Every decision they made was bad. The Pac-12 is
because they were flying by the seat of their pants and petrified of anything they would say. They were scared.
Exactly. So the Pac-12 is not that bad, but the lack of unified messaging among the presidents about the timeline, or just they had that unity statement back in the spring and all of that, thinking that would be it. Look, sometimes the best thing to do when you really don't know, because genuinely this whole time they haven't known when it was going to be, is we will get one when we get one. This is a really strange and, drawn out process. We're trying to do the best thing, we were caught flat-footed on USC and UCLA leaving, so we're trying to, just work through it in the best way that's for us. We're all together on this. And then you don't really, realignment rumors will be there. At least you don't have this constantly moving goal line because they didn't give you a goal line.
Yeah, when they released the statement, they just had stopped there, period. Everything's fine. But then when Kirk Schultz is doing the interview with the alum and saying, oh, yeah, well, we just met last week and we saw this and it's going to be this. And okay, well, that stirs it all back up again and restarts the clock.
The message has to be the same from all 10 of you. We are working on it. We have no idea when it'll get done, but we have faith that it will get done.
Don't predict it'll be better or worse than the Big 12's number.
We don't know what it's going to be. We're not trying to, and the best thing would be George Kleoff could be like, is it going to be better than the Big 12? We'd love to get that same deal. Yeah. That's a good deal. If we can do better than that, great. If we get the same, great. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Roger Dodger, who's a USC fan, so I'm not sure. Of course, he has the history with the Pac-12, but Pac-12 is criticized for not releasing information and for releasing information. What the heck do you expect the Pac-12 to do? Not give fraudulent timelines or just say something to maybe move it down the road. Be honest about it from the beginning. Now, there are times when maybe they felt like they were on the cusp of something. It didn't work out, but it was almost as if Commissioner Kleoff was calling Washington State Schultz or Robbins at Arizona or whoever at Arizona State or someone at Utah and saying, hey, will you just kind of say this and be quoted, call a reporter or a columnist? And I think that was happening. George Kleoff was given a bad deal when he arrived to take over the conference of what Larry Scott did. So a lot of this was well before. But don't say something just to say it because you're kicking the can down the road. If you don't know, say I don't know. I have no idea when this is going to get done. But don't say we'll have something between now and the NCAA tournament. And then, we might have something in March, April. That's what this was not created by a bunch of Big 12 reporters or fans. This was created by the Pac-12 and by them always bringing up deadlines, timelines that have not been reached. And when they do, thank God for all of them.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be really satisfied when this is over one way or the other. And Roger Dodger, your point, I don't expect to hear anything. They don't have to answer to me or to any of the people in the chat or anything like that. If they had said nothing this entire time, I'm sure we'd be saying we'd love to have heard something because we hadn't heard anything. But it's not up to us. It's ultimately up to them. I just think from an outsider's perspective, if you're looking at this and you're hearing the various timelines that have been proposed or the assurances from reporters who are very clearly talking to the same people, and we are here a year later, that's what just makes you go it has you scratching your head what the hell? And with the benefit of hindsight is what we're operating on as well of maybe it wasn't a good idea to have a unity statement back in February or whenever that was. We can say that now. At the time, it felt like a deal was coming in 2 weeks when you release something like that. Not 5 months later, you've got media days and you're still not even going to announce anything. That's what, with the benefit of hindsight in particular, just makes it look silly to look back on now. So, do what you got to do and do however you feel you need to do it. And again, until there isn't a deal signed, there's always the opportunity that it could end up better than the Big 12's. None of us know until it's actually signed, sealed, delivered, and made public. But I think even those involved would look back and say, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have done that Q&A or answered that question. I think Kirk Schultz would say that. I think probably Ray Anderson would say that. I'm sure there's probably a couple times where Kleoff probably, if he could have a do-over, go, you know what, back in March, I should have just said this and then left it at that. So we do that with everything, much less conference realignment.
I think part of that was that the conference, whether it's George Kleoff or somebody else saying, hey, would you go on record and say some of this? Or would you contact Dennis Dodd, who Pac-12 fans thinks is the devil, or whoever else? Here's what I want to know. How much or how many ADs or presidents in the Big 12 said a word about the fact that they were working on a TV deal, had quotes about it, and then all of a sudden there was an extension? Because I remember when that story came down, we were like, wait, what?
That's apples to oranges, though, because we didn't have a need to ask about a TV deal. Their TV deal wasn't coming up anytime soon. So
it was still there because there was a worry about what they were going to get losing Texas and Oklahoma.
Sure, but it's also wasn't up for another year after this. Not even a year from then, like another year after this right now. So, had we gotten into like these next 6 months, or after football, I would imagine after this next football season, we would have started to go like, okay, what about this new TV deal? And maybe a little bit beforehand, but yeah, I don't think like in 2 years we're not going to be asking Brett Yormark about the next TV deal because there'll still be time on it. So I think it's a little bit of a different scenario, but I understand kind of, your base position of where you're coming from there.
No, there were no leaks. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden, poof, there was an extension. They kept it quiet. They got it done from Kim Coulter, Super Chat. What does it say about those of us, me, he's talking about himself, that have their entire day planned around this show?
No, it says you're awesome, Kim. It says you're a winner at life.
Yeah.
It's exactly what they said. It means you are super fan, and we appreciate you for that. We really do. Not everybody in the chat is, but Roger, Pac-12 has to be positive with negotiations, releasing timelines for hopefully the end of the negotiations is not communicating fraud. The Pac-12 was trying to get it done by the deadlines.
Yeah, look, I understand the Pac-12 being positive and doing what they have to do, but from the outsider's point of view where we don't have to be that way, it is easy to point and laugh. I'm sorry, but it is. It is when this has been going on as long as it has. And look, it's no different than, the Big 12 in multiple occasions or, any number of other sagas in college football, so it's just they're the ones that are in the spotlight right now, and the spotlight's just been on them for a really long time now, it feels like, and so it's made it unique and very strange, as Ross Dellinger said.
All right, it's 5:39, Paul's top five just around the corner. We mentioned Duke and Baylor men's basketball yesterday, that was going to happen at Madison Square Garden. How about Baylor, Scott Drew and Tom Izzo possibly meeting up?
I would love it. At
Little Caesars Arena, they're nothing official, but I saw 2 or 3 reporters, a couple of them out of Detroit. There are rumblings that Michigan State Hoops has had discussions with Baylor about playing a game at Little Caesars Arena this season. Nothing yet is official. So that's from a reporter that covers Michigan State. Baylor just added Duke, and then all of a sudden the possibility of adding Tom Izzo. Didn't Drew beat Izzo straight up in one of those preseason tournament games? One of those festivity-type tournaments?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
I'm almost positive he did.
Like in the Virgin Islands or something like that, one of those?
Yeah. Bahamas or something around there. Sir Blah, 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 is Kliavkoff the puppet or the puppeteer? I will say this again. I've never met the man. I'm sure he's brilliant. He surely is doing pretty well in his career. He walked in the door, perhaps he should have, or his agent, done a little bit more due diligence about some of the things he was walking into. There was timing. There was the Big 12 acting early. There was USC and Oklahoma, USC and UCLA walking out the door, just like Bowlesby gets slammed for allowing Texas and OU to leave and not know about it. At least, though, he reacted pretty quickly with adding the 4 schools. And yet the Big 12, as Craig mentioned, at the time was not going through a TV deal change. But they had to react quickly, and they did with the 4 incoming schools.
I just wonder if George Kliavkoff was not the right guy at the right time, and they didn't foresee that. And look, I think he's probably pretty good at a lot of other aspects of the job, but for these two things to intersect and then having to deal with what he's dealing with, which I do think that the presidents are a bigger problem than George Kliavkoff, because I do think that they are having a hard time letting go of what they were compared to what they are, which when you hear a lot of them talk, you hear them talking like, okay, look, you guys do know that USC and UCLA are gone, right? Because sometimes I hear that and it's like they forgot that little detail in all of this. And so I do think that it's probably not fair. We don't know, and we won't know until the end of this TV deal, but he walked into a mess, and I don't think he was ready for a lot of things that were coming, because no one was, and he got caught super flat-footed on 2 things. One, the Big 12, one, USC and UCLA, and 2, the Big 12 cut in line in his mind and went and got the TV deal.
Yeah, I don't know if it's as black and white as puppeteer and the puppet itself. I think it might be a little bit more gray than that, but if anybody's pulling the strings, though, it's the athletic directors and the schools, not Kliavkoff. He might pull the strings in certain negotiations with a TV network, But ultimately, he's acting on behalf as an athletic director of
the president.
As a commissioner. He's acting on the part of the athletic directors, the athletic departments, the university. So, yeah, he is definitely – I don't know if he's, getting all the strings pulled. I think he's pulling a couple himself when need be. But, yeah, he's definitely not the puppeteer, that's for sure.
Yeah, the words, the terms, or quotes from sources about a layup, final stages, next couple of weeks.
Those were the comments that really –
nothing imminent.
Those were the comments that were like the ones that added the fuel. And that's where I think you see a lot of the back and forth springs from a lot of those types of the comments of the, layup and that type of thing. So that's where some of it comes from for sure. And then some of it's just, this nasty little rivalry between two conferences that's developed as a result of all these things. But, that's going to be the biggest slam dunk here in few weeks, few months on the part of some people out on the West Coast to throw all this back in the face of a bunch of people and the rest of the country, or that's just going to get hammered home even further, the layup quote or the easily beat the Big 12 quote, and all that's going to get thrown back in the other side's face. And I'm here for it. Whichever direction that goes, I can't wait to just know what that end result is.
I can't wait. I really can't. And God bless them if they can come up with something that is unique and also something that gives everybody the money they want and keep everybody together, because, by God, eventually there's going to be games starting in September where that does take the back seat. Now, one of the other problems has been the offseason. Yeah, there's recruiting, national signing days, things like that, but it has been the offseason during most of these negotiations. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina and his top five. This is 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Richland Drive and also Valley Mills. I was there the other day to get some cigars for when I play golf on the weekends, and I have not played the last couple of Thursdays. Won't play Thursday morning because of my dentist appointment, but I do go by there to pick up cigars for the weekend for me to smoke, and sometimes, most of the time, I'm going to get the longer Churchill length cigars. Oliva is something that I was able to get a couple of. Perdomo is one. They don't have the Churchill length, but a very smooth cigar. And then, of course, Ashton Macanudo. There's the Rocky Patel, La Fontana. Rocky Patel is unbelievable. So many different type of selections you have when it comes to what cigars you want. My favorite has been, from the beginning, the Rocky Patel Torpedo Edge Light. And then there's other Rocky Patel type cigars, different types of names for them. What an unbelievable company and what they've done over many, many years. Rocky Patel Torpedo Edge Light was one of the first ones that I ever started to smoke. I think Arturo Fuente was another one, Churchill length. I like that one. It's Don Humidor and Coffee Beans, CBD products. If you struggle at night falling asleep, they have that. And, of course, the torch lighters if you want to light the cigar, and the humidors to put them in. Don Humidor Coffee Beans, just off Richland Drive in Valley Mills, in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
The future's bright. The time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late-night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, that's TexasBeefHouse.com. Everyone, when they think of Wagyu, the first thing they think about is beef, and that's obviously what you guys specialize in, and you raise it right there from your pasture to the customer. The fillets, you have ribeyes, you have New York strips. I've tried them all. These are always available, correct, by ordering online?
Yes, everything's available at TexasBeefHouse.com. You can order one package of steaks up to as many packages as you want. All the steaks come 2 steaks per package. We've got New York strip fillets. The fillets are so tender you can almost cut them with a fork. Ribeyes, we've got top sirloin, and we've got regular sirloin, and even flat iron, flank steak, and flap steak. They're all great.
Oh, that sounds great. Fajita meat?
Yes, we've got skirt steak and flank steak that we use for fajita meat.
Samantha Duvall's the marketing director with Aaron Duvall, of course, in the Duvall family. What they've done, family-owned, operated, and they run TexasBeefHouse.com. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu, not just steaks, but also so much more. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
Top 5 things UCF must do to win the Big 12. Before I get to this, I'm going to shout out our internet partners at UPN, Turbocharged by Unite Private Networks.
Was that the one I picked up, the Turbocharged?
Oh, yeah.
I think I did.
Yeah, we worked it. That was good. That was good brainstorming session because I had no idea how to say that other than a way everybody says other things. So Unite Private Networks, we're not buffering. We've had great to say. Garrett, his life has been
significantly
so much easier since Unite Private Networks came in. So if your business needs high-speed internet, and I'm talking high-speed internet, they are amazing. So go to uniteprivatenetworks.com. They are keeping us on the air and out of the antacid for sure since they've come aboard about 3 weeks ago.
That hasn't happened, that swirling little circle that oh, damn.
Yeah, when you're on your own private network like we are with nobody else, down the street downloading whatever they're doing down there, then it's great not to have that. But top 5 things UCF must do to win the Big 12. Number 5, keep Plumlee healthy. I did this. The same topic was part of another top 5 that, best seasons. But, yeah, they got to keep John Rice Plumlee healthy. He is going to be their big X factor in making the biggest jump in the year of getting into this conference. If he's not, and look, I'm sure they're confident in their backup, but he's a special player, and UCF and Houston and Cincinnati and BYU need to make sure that all their special players stay healthy and being special for 12 games if they want a chance to win the league.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have a ton of experience behind him. This is not like last year, where you had, Mikey Keene, available, and he got a lot of the snaps. So I don't know who their next man up right away is, but I know they've got, some redshirt freshmen, like that type of, gathering of guys that could spell Plumlee. And if I'm missing somebody obvious, then by all means, Knights fans, let me know in the comments. But regardless, if Plumlee goes down, I don't know, if they've got anybody back there ready to go that just keeps the ship upright no matter who's in that room. So he's very important. He's their face. He's the guy who's going to be the motor and the engine for them. And he's an awfully dangerous playmaker in a good kind of way at times, but also has injury concerns that you have to be, aware of and be ready for. So hopefully they planned accordingly just in the case that he is out. But hopefully, most of all, he's not hurt at all, and he can go out there and just have a big banner year in the first season of the Big 12 because he's a fun player to watch, and he can help them win some games.
Number 4. Find some depth. Look, this is going to be and I'm not saying they don't have some, but they're going to have to find some that they didn't maybe even know that they had, because the attrition in the Big 12 is going to be worse than it is in the AAC. Just a fact of life of moving into the Power 5. You're going to have guys step up that you did not expect, and the teams that win are the ones that have the depth that can overcome those things. So we don't know where UCF is right now depth-wise as they head into the Big 12, because they don't really probably have a great grasp on that, because they've got to see themselves get through a season. But if they want to win the Big 12, they're going to have to find some depth in some places they maybe didn't know they had it.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder how much of a transition there is versus a few years ago when you were having teams like West Virginia and TCU coming into the league.
It's probably less, I think.
I think it's definitely less at this point. You don't have to have the defensive linemen the way you quite had to have them maybe when the league was status quo, but I do think there is an element to the depth part of it, and particularly on those lines. I think that's something that just takes time. I don't know that even in the portal area you can just do that overnight and come away not only with quantity but quality as well. So yeah, that's an area, depth, where you immediately go to when you're making a move like this. And yeah, like I said, maybe it's not as much of an adjustment as it was for schools that have come in, in years past, because the game's just a bit different. The Big 12's a bit different than it was, but there's still going to be some adjustment, I think, especially with the big guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, make big plays on special teams. I think that, could be the case for anyone, but I think for a team like UCF to sneak up on people and get some of those big wins, especially in the places they have to go. They've got to go to Tech. They've got to go to Norman, places they're going to be really tough to win. They're going to have to block some punts. They're going to have to bring some kickbacks a lot. They're going to have to, when you get that game where you can't believe that you're lining up to kick a 45-yard field goal to win it on the road, you better make that damn kick. Like that, if you want to win the league, you got to make those kicks.
They were 14 of 15, I believe, last year kicking field goals.
Yeah, so you got to keep doing that. And it's the field goals. They're
14 of 17. Boomer, what a great name, was 14 of 15 with a long of 43 yards.
Yeah, but they've got to do all that. Look, you can't have bad kickoffs. You can't have bad punts. You have to. Those are the things that are going to make the difference, especially for a team that is just on the cusp of the outside looking into maybe contending for this league, is changing some games and some close ones because you blocked a kick or returned one and now put the team back on its heels. Beamer ball, so to speak, a little bit.
Yeah, find ways to win where you can find them. If you're not as talented as everybody else or as deep as everybody else or whatever, you aren't as much as anybody else, find ways to win. And Virginia Tech did that for the longest. And, yeah, that's how Matt Rule's going to go about trying to win in Nebraska. He's not going to win by just running it up people's guts. He's not going to just have an exceptional turnover ratio. They're going to win some games, probably one or two, based on like a blocked field goal or a kickback or a return. I'd be willing to – I don't want to say I'd be willing to bet on that. I know somebody would immediately go like, I'll bet you, but I have very strong feelings that that's probably what will happen for them this year.
What's Ed Foley's job on that staff is to do those things.
And they did. They blocked field goals when that 2019 team, and right there you saw that before then. They had 2 punt returns for touchdowns last year, UCF. Yeah.
By the way, I'm surprised more teams don't embrace even the old school Beamer ball, because if you look back at some of those Virginia Tech teams, they were gloriously boring on offense. And that's not a knock on Frank Beamer, but they would win some games 17-3, and their touchdown was a 2-yard play that came after a blocked punt that rolled out of bounds. And that's just because that's what they did. And it may be a better way to go about it. I don't know. Maybe it doesn't work in the modern context as much. But
I've said this,
I'm
and
a
you
special
guys have heard
teams
me.
lover, as you know.
I love it. Great teams who have great special teams are really good ones. They're almost unbeatable. You have an average team that is really good on special teams with that hidden yardage, a block punt, whatever, run back a punt, then you are playing at an 8-9 win season rather than just trying to get into a bowl game.
Look, there was a time in my life where Sebastian Janikowski could have called me up and said, hey, I need you to make something go away from me. And I would have been like, you tell me where I need to be.
I thought you were going to say something else. You would have done that too.
Yeah. You need to make something go away from me. No problem. You tell me where I need to be. I'll have some guys. Number 2. Win in very tough road environments. I already mentioned it earlier, but the 2 that hop out to me on their schedule that is going to be the biggest probably adjustment for them will be Tech and Oklahoma. I don't care what Oklahoma was last year. I don't know what they're going to be this year, but Norman is not a place where you roll into and think, this is going to be a fun day. It's going to be tough. Texas Tech is it's always been a tough place to play, but now people kind of know about it, and now the fans have embraced the fact that
people know about it.
And
it's a pride factor.
Well, they also, look, if I'm on the road and I'm paying tickets to come to the show, I want to hear the band play all the hit songs. Mm-hmm. And the Texas Tech fans' hit songs are Tortillas Everywhere and Loud and Crazy, especially if that game winds up at night. You never know what's going to happen in Lubbock. It's a really, really tough road environment.
Yeah, but we saw one team walk in there and just punch them in the mouth and make them like it at their own place. So it's not impossible to do, and there's probably few things that are as gratifying as walking into somebody's heated home stadium and punch them in the mouth and making them go quiet, right? So, yeah, if UCF wants to make a huge impact, roll into venues like that and go about your business that way, and you'll not only impress some folks and make some new fans, but you'll walk away with some big wins potentially. So, yeah, you just got to go in there not defeated already or not psyched out, and don't let all the pandemonium and the fandom get to you. I know it's easier said than done, but you be ready because, there's going to be some spots that are pretty hot, and I know that they've played in some good venues and whatnot previously, but there's probably a little bit of a step up compared to the tours of the American Athletic Conference, and those 2 in particular will be fun to see how they adapt to those environments.
It's one thing we think we know a lot about the incoming schools, maybe more about Brigham Young because we've seen them the last 2 years, a little bit about UCF or Cincinnati, and obviously Houston proximity, but we really are going to be learning quite a bit about more of them as far as their history, winning on the road or not. UCF last year lost, 5 games. They lost at home to Louisville. They lost at East Carolina. They lost against Navy, which was shocking. And then also they lost in the bowl game against Duke. So they had the one bad loss on the road to East Carolina. They were beaten 34-13.
And number 1, withstand the beating of the schedule. You will not have, look, Craig made the point earlier, and it's very valid and true that it's probably not as hard as it used to be, but you are transitioning to a conference that you are not going to have the same kind of, we can have a, 3-quarter zombie walkthrough of this game and then turn it on and win at the end. That's not the case as you're moving in. And that's the case. This is probably going to be on all 4 of the incoming teams. Look, you've got to withstand the beating of the schedule. That's true for all the teams that are in it, but it's new for the teams that are coming into the league of this is your week-to-week schedule. On and on and on and on. So you can't have one of those things where nothing's working and you're kind of working through it, but the team you're playing is, Well,
all right. In 2017, when they ran the table, they played one ranked team. They played Memphis and they played Auburn and won both those games to end up the year. In 2000, and this is not any way a direct shot at UCF, but I'm looking against ranked teams, and the Big 12 is always going to have 3 to 5 teams ranked. In 2018, they had one team, Cincinnati, until they played LSU. So the number of ranked teams, they have not had many of them on their schedule. In 2019, they did not play a single ranked team. It's not their fault. Some teams just didn't have a very good year to get ranked, but they're going to most likely play 3 to 5 teams that are ranked this year within the Big 12 schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to get dialed up a little bit. I mean, let's not pretend like they're walking into like it's Georgia week 1, Alabama week 2.
Yep.
Let's be somewhat realistic about it, but it is a step up, and there will be more ranked teams on their schedule. There will be than they've been accustomed to. I don't know what 2020 and beyond has looked like, but 2018, 19, if those are examples of how it's kind of been status quo, then they're going to see an escalation there. And I think nobody, guys, is more well aware of those things than those teams walking in, because whether they've found it out themselves through just experience or through looking into what they need to do to get better, they've been hammered over the head by everybody telling them what they're about to experience, I think, as well. So it will be challenging. There will be bumps in the road for all 4, but I think they're going to come in as well equipped as any newcomers have because of just the state of the league and the transfer portal in the state of college football right now. But there will be some bumps and some things to learn from for sure.
All right, TCU came into the Big 12 in 2012. 2 years prior, they were unbeaten, went to the Rose Bowl. They were 7-6, but I tell you what, they were right in the mix in 2014 with those great games. That game with Baylor, both teams very much playoff worthy, but they just couldn't get in because of data points.
And if they haven't been studying up, then watch Paul's Top 5 again and hit the high points of what you need to do. I mean, that's the thing, is winning on the road, just tougher road environments, slightly tougher teams, just more of a juggernaut, I guess, overall in the teams you're playing week after week. But I'm very curious to see what surprises these schools may have up their sleeves, or I'll be, interested to see if they walk in and all 4 of them are like, damn, like we weren't quite ready for this just yet. I just can't wait to see it all.
Yep, and again, UCF Knights, Paul's Top 5. Again, we appreciate it, and I think they're as much as anybody prepared for the incoming of the Big 12 as anybody else, including even Brigham Young. For Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Jack McKenzie, also with Graham Bronstein, who kind of was talking a little bit today with Emory and Levi working remotely,
he predicted
but doing their
Mizzou
deal.
To win the East,
Mizzou,
right?
the Tigers go 12-1. Also, Garrett Ross, whose job apparently is too easy because of UPN.
Yeah, United Private Networks. I mean, we need to find a new way to give Garrett, stress.
Thank you to all of you in the chat room, all of you, even when we disagree. I'm David Smoak for our incredible sponsors. Back at it again tomorrow at 3 Central, and this is 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open